It is 6:04. Good morning from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I'm Jackson Williams. The Final Four is set in the NCAA tournament, and the Tennessee Vols men's basketball team had their season come to a close in the Elite Eight as they lost to the Houston Cougars 69-50 in Indianapolis. Houston joins Duke, Auburn, and Florida in the Final Four. All four teams playing on Saturday in San Antonio. Florida and Auburn tipping off at 6:09 p.m., and Houston and Duke follow them at approximately 8:49. In NFL news, the Buffalo Bills and standout corner Christian Benford agreed to a 4-year, $76 million extension. The 2022 sixth-round pick out of Villanova started 15 games for Buffalo in 2024 and snagged 2 INTs. For your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, you need to visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Monday morning begins right now on RKW. As my voice wakes up as well. How are we doing? March the 31st, final day of the month of March. Ramon Foster, Kayla Anderson, and Will Bowling. My voice starting the day kind of like the Vols did yesterday in Indianapolis. Good morning.
That's a quick transition.
Bad.
Thanks.
Is what it was. I did not expect to hear that voice this morning.
I actually didn't either. I'm not going to lie to you.
Bro, I get it. You gave your all yesterday in some capacity.
Fair enough.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Fair night of waking.
I don't
There's
know.
no cups in the break room again. I do not have any coffee or water to start the day. So that's why the quick transition can't happen to me.
We'll have to go get those in the break.
Yeah, we got to figure that out, my brother.
I forgot our show starts at 6:05 now. I
Yeah.
probably had time to actually go do it.
Exactly.
Yeah,
A little bit later.
We get the
I
longest
feel.
show, but it's a little bit shorter now.
Yeah, no doubt, man.
I'll be right.
You spoke. It sounded like Oscar the Grouch right now. It was just deep will voice out here, but I'm here for it. I get it. And look. You may have yelled your lungs out yesterday. I saw your posting. I think you were in Indiana at the stadium.
I did. Made the trip.
I got
Nice.
kicked out of my house yesterday because
Did you
Were you
really?
yelling?
Yes. Wasn't yelling, frustrated, mad, ticked off, all of those, okay, words, Kayla. I was a lot of emotional. Let's just
I
call
get
it that. Emotional. So
Sure.
instead of me yelling, I got up and I walked outside. The moment I walked outside, Jordan Gainey, I guess, went on his run. And I peeked
There was
my
no
head.
coming back in at that point, was there?
I know. And no, it was not. I peeked my head into the living room. I said, hey, is it safe to come in? Keith said, no, get back out. We're doing good. So I proceeded to walk around my yard.
So did you listen on the radio or?
No, I did not.
No, you did not.
I did some task outside real quick, Kayla. I would
Took a
peek
deep
back
breath.
in. I went and checked the mail. I had a lot of mail in the mailbox. I walked back up the hill, man, and I sat outside with Zeus for a
Yeah, I was
while.
going to say, was Zeus involved in
Yes, he was. He was involved yesterday. He's looking at me like I'm a crazy man,
Yeah.
but I think he
Sounds
gets
like
me
you
at
were.
this
That's why you
point.
get kicked outside.
I did get kicked out.
Damn.
It started raining, so I went to the back porch for a little while, too. I was anywhere but in the house, whatever it took to win that game, which it ended up needing a lot
Right.
yesterday because Houston absolutely blitzed them. Oh, my gosh. It was just like it was a Dick LeBeau-style
It's a tough start.
defense right there is what I saw, man. It was insane yesterday. Great by the guys that have served under Coach Barnes for so long. Zakai and Jemai Meshack, to be specific on those two guys, man. What a ride they've had. Forever cemented in Vol history, man. I know we say VFL, but those dudes really lived it out considering what they've done and what they meant more than
Right.
anything. A lot of people will say, well, you didn't make the Final Four. Yeah, I know, but what those two individuals have meant to that school and to that sport specifically under Coach Barnes, man, is a lot.
Yeah, they're special. Definitely special. That game was tough just in terms of the start. I feel like if they even had maybe 5 points more or something in terms to start
you're
the
right.
game,
Yeah.
it would have been so different. But it was just that play and catch up the rest of the way. And
Yeah.
you had it. I mean, you had a chance there, like you said, with Gainey kind of willing them back. But, Jemai Meshack got to the line, and it's like you missed those couple of really crucial free throws. And in a way, it kind of shifted the momentum back.
Yeah, it did. And it felt like the depth perception and focus of the rim had really hit, as opposed to the Kentucky game.
With the floor, you mean?
Yeah, and again, there's no excuse. It's just what it looked like to me.
Though.
Everything was short. Everything was a bit long. Although some of those early shots were in and out real quick. And at that point, you're trying to overcorrect as a player and trying to force certain things. Their shots were short, and they came up way short as far as competing with Houston yesterday. Man, it was impressive watching Houston also be very offensive, also lose their big man with 2 early fouls, and they still push the score up as much as they did. They looked like they looked in the both regular season Kentucky games and Florida at Florida is the way they looked to me.
Right.
And also a little bit of Vanderbilt. Like, they could not get it going, and it showed what their strength was. Defense was not good enough. Their ability to slash the lane against the Vols defense was something I didn't see.
Houston has still only lost once since Feast Week, February 1st in overtime to Texas Tech.
Have they really?
4-1 seeds in the NCAA tournament Final Four for the second time ever. And, boy, who do Tennessee fans cheer for between Todd Golden and Bruce Pearl?
Oof.
Oh, they're going to choose Bruce all day.
I'd choose Bruce.
I feel like as a human, you've got to go Bruce, but
yeah.
I think I might cheer for the rest for once. Maybe Pat Adams will actually get some affection for me.
That's a tough
When Florida plays Auburn, I don't want either team. I want the arena to cave in and everyone be safe. But I want the arena to cave in and that game not finish.
They almost had a scare yesterday with Jemai Broom, too.
Yeah.
You talk about being loud. Travis, I had to almost kick him out.
He was about to lose it.
I was like, there's other people in this vicinity that are hearing you right now.
It don't matter in those moments.
Yeah, but I was
Does not
surprised to
matter.
see him come back
Yeah.
in that game. He looked like he hurt his elbow, ankle, knee on the same play.
It did, man. He's of course at that point they had the game. I felt like on lock.
I think
as
they
it
were
pertains
within 10.
Yeah, to be in control of it, man. Biggs hitting the ground and just the way they get injured at times, man, it sucks. But he's had those moments, I feel like, a few times. Well, a couple of times this year, too, as it pertains to him understanding the weight of what they got going on. So good on them, man. The SEC's representative, of course, I'm selfishly enjoying that one because two NFL, because 2 SEC teams are going, Ron Slay will be calling some of the Final Four
That's right.
matchups
Oh, that's
now
cool.
there, too. Yeah, he'll do
awesome.
the slam dunk contest, which I had no idea that they did, and the 3-point contest. So we'll be
Sweet.
seeing him on the tube, man. I can't wait to see what he does.
So he's
down
going
there.
to San Antonio.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
big.
I
Saw
didn't
it on
know
his
that.
Instagram last night.
Good for
Said,
him.
see y'all in San Antonio.
See y'all in with them big old women, according to Charles Barkley.
He won't be worried about that.
No, he will not.
He won't be worried
And
about
them
that.
churros.
615-737-1045. Tony Keeley at 720 this morning will preview NFL draft defensive backs with us. Monday Roast at 8:20. Richard Hendricks of SEC Network at 9:20. And your thoughts as well in the F&M Bank chat. Facebook Live, YouTube, Twitter, or Twitch. We'll give you the full reaction to Tennessee and Houston coming up next.
It's Ramon and Kayla Anderson here for Window Nation. Kayla, it is time for a lot of folks. Man, I've actually seen new windows around the city, but it's time for folks to replace their cold, drafty windows with energy-efficient ones from Window Nation, man. They're built to protect your home with top-quality insulation and seals. Window Nation, Kayla, they have some of the best insulated windows you can buy. And the windows they frequently outperform and outlast ones from the expensive guys. So save every month on heating and cooling all year long, KK.
That is right. They have windows that actually last too. 96% customer satisfaction rating, over 20,000 5-star reviews. It's pretty dang good. And you could trust us. You could trust some of the people that have actually had those windows installed. Albert saying great value, great product, great customer service, highly recommended. We recommend it too. So do yourself a favor, do your home a favor. Schedule a fast free estimate with the pros at Window Nation today at 866-90Nation or go online windownation.com.
RKW is brewed by Scooters Coffee on 104.5 The Zone with locations in White House, Mount Juliet, Rivergate, Smyrna, and Brentwood. Download the Scooters Coffee mobile app today. Scooters Coffee, the highlight of my day yesterday, driving up to Indianapolis.
Nice. Which one
Lots
do
of
you-
locations on the way. Louisville.
Oh, sweet. They have one in Louisville, too.
They are everywhere.
My brother from
Dang.
Louisville is in town this
We
weekend.
talked
He
about
told
that.
me about it. Yeah, they got a nice following of scooters up there. My niece, by the way,
Everywhere.
loves it too. She absolutely loves scooters.
Very good.
Yeah.
69-50, Houston over Tennessee. Tennessee's 15 first-half points, the lowest in an NCAA tournament history by a team with a 1 or 2 seed. Now, what was the biggest problem yesterday for the Vols?
The defense that Houston swarmed them with, they could not drive at all. Their bigs, I got to give it to Houston's defense. They moved side to side, back and forth, and they were the right touch of aggressive to really move the Vols off the ball. You saw it. They could not get up through the paint. There was no secondary offense as far as them being able to drive and dish the ball off and work around the rim, which is the opposite of what Houston did for the most part. Like we looked at I feel like when you look at the game, the Vols came in hopes of establishing a three-point shot to move them out, to spread them out a little bit more. But the fact that they did not hit them, the fact that they couldn't hit, they couldn't throw a ball in the ocean yesterday during that Houston game. And it looked like it. And that made Houston get very comfortable. Again, when you live by the three, you die by the three. I know it's one of the things that people mention all the time, but when you're not playing in your court or an opponent's arena where you're very comfortable at, those types of situations present themselves often. Like legitimately, you look at the way they shot the ball. It was front end on point, but front end, and I don't know if it was depth perception or what as it pertains to why they weren't going in, but Houston defended it well. They switched good. It was the Vols, they looked like a 2 seed versus a 1. And they looked like they were probably not the first 2 seed, but the fourth 2 seed in viewing that game.
At times looked like they were a 9 seed against a 1.
Seriously. That's the way it looked in that one, man. And again, the guys that needed to play bigger roles had no effect. Z did everything you needed him to as far as trying to get in the paint. Got his shot blocked. And there was no secondary. And then on top of that, too, Houston's ability, especially in the first half when they were running the score up, their second chance opportunities they got around the rim, or the fact that it was Akpara and nobody else rebounding the ball at that point in time, played a huge part in it. That, I think, is something that I feel like Coach Barnes and his staff have to adjust moving forward. Like, looking at Duke team this year, Duke looked like they crafted a big athletic team. And that's why I feel like the Vols are athletic and they can move and they got like crazy amounts of athletes that can get production, but it can't just be predicated upon a shooter plus a real good point guard. Like, I know that plays a part, but like looking at the teams that are left in it, even Houston, a bunch of bigs that really work well around the rim. Heck, that was what, honestly, I feel like Purdue did to the Vols last year. I know Zach Edey's a one-off as it pertains to it, but they've gotten bodied by teams that have bigs like that. And that plus Houston defense, I think, played a huge part in it.
It was an interesting matchup, just to think about going into this one. First of all, there's so much history with Kelvin Sampson and Rick Barnes. It was kind of interesting to hear all of that beforehand. I didn't realize that they had that much history going into this, but two really defensive-minded teams, two of the best defensive teams in the country throughout the season, I would say, for sure. And so you wondered how that would match up. And in a way, you were like, something's got to give, but in no way did I feel like it would be that cold of a shooting performance coming out of the gate. And yes, you do have to give credit to what Houston defense did. I thought that Kelvin Sampson did a really good job. You mentioned Zakai Ziegler. I think he really did a great job of scheming up to limit Zakai as well. We talk about how, the guards have to have a big part of the tournament throughout it. I mean, Zakai did as much as he could. He couldn't even help it because they were doing so much to limit him. So I think that, along with just the cold shooting they came out with. And that is so hard to catch up with in any tournament when you have a team like Houston that plays the defense that they play. And, they were in the first half, at least, their shots were hitting.
Yeah. Houston, they had the Florida type game to me.
Yeah.
They legitimately had that game where Florida just shot the lights out, like the SEC tournament. There's nothing they could do about it, honestly. Like, you couldn't defend around the 3-point line the way you needed it to. It was, again, you needed a jump start by the 3-point ball, and I think Chaz was 1 for 7 in the first half.
Tennessee was 0 of 14 to start. From 3.
Yeah, that's tough.
Well, I was wrong. I must have been on one of my walks, so I got kicked out.
Oh, no, Chaz was 2 of 11 overall from 3.
11.
Yeah.
17 points total from him.
Yeah, that's tough.
Not enough.
And again, this isn't, I don't think, a black eye to him. It's just that sometimes when you play basketball like this is what happens. And that's something we've spoken about before is where's the offense through the paint? Like, it's one thing for Felix Akpara to hold it down in the paint, but who else is beside him? Most teams, I feel like in this tournament that are in the Final Four have 2 bigs. They have 2 that are athletic enough that also play different roles instead of besides just rebounding the ball and being a rim protecting. I think that's what we fell short.
And Tennessee got at 2.5, which is not a diss at Igor Milicic. It's just a comment on his role being different than a traditional 4 in the paint. When you can't make shots and then you can't rebound those missed shots and you can't make tough 2s, you're just not going to win many games. You're playing the lottery of shooting at that point. And that's where Tennessee fell in this. They were unable to get to the basket. Zakai Ziegler slashing and driving was kind of their adjustment from the Kentucky loss earlier this season. Zakai getting to the hoop was the thing that kind of bailed them out when they didn't shoot well at times. And the rebounding ability is another thing that bailed them out. Tennessee did not shoot well in the win over Kentucky either, but they had a lot of offensive rebounds and second chance points. That's not something that Houston allows you to do. That is a strength of theirs. So I think for a Tennessee roster that just didn't have many drivers, this exposed that in the worst way. You needed you always need a Dalton Connect, let's be honest, but you needed a Dalton Connect kind of athlete who could get to the rim and at the very least get fouled and be in position to get his own rebound or just go up and lay it in. And this Tennessee team that has a lot of good jump shooters and some guys who can drive, you have to be an elite driver to go at Houston and take those defenders one-on-one and score because you're not rebounding your missed shots.
No.
It's just not going to happen.
That's one of the things the halftime crew had said, too, of speaking about the Vols game. It's just like, and they spoke about Chaz. It wasn't just Chaz. It was Zakai's ability to get to the rim and shoot over defenders. Again, his size has been an advantage for him, and in games like this where teams play really big and it's good on good, like you saw yesterday, Houston's bigs and their forwards, man, their forwards and bigs, like they attacked Zakai straight up, and then help came over to block him again because his short in stature, his trajectory is way different from others who are, like Will said a second ago, like if you got an elite driver and a guy with some size, you play above the rim in those moments. You get that contact. You can at least get that ball up and stave them off a little bit as it pertains to how you go at them at the rim. And they were smart about it. You got to give Houston credit on that one, man. And again, the halftime crew brought up Chaz. And you bring up Chaz because nationally that's what they know, right? He's the shooter. He's the guy. And they were speaking on the fact that it's disrespectful for Houston to be able to play your premier player man-on-man, one-on-one, and you not break him down. Like, that's where I feel like that's the guard that the Vols need. Like, even watching Chaz yesterday, he had another one of those jump ball situations where he's dribbling, and I feel like teams had gotten to a point to where they said, yo, he's not the best dribbler of the ball. He's not the drive guy. So attack him. And they did, and they got a jump ball in those situations right there. That, to me, I felt like that's what Kentucky honestly had throughout the course of the year, and watching Houston and their guards be able to break guys down and slash and dish the ball too. So really good, but not enough is the way you view this one in the Vols performance, man. And you can't overemphasize, like, as far as good as Darlington Dubar was, I felt like in the Kentucky matchup, like one of his deficiencies is always going to be defense and how he gets lost.
And just consistency in general.
Yes. And in that, though, like if he is capable of playing defense, what you do know about this from him coming from Hofstra, he is very offensive. You don't get those opportunities to see him because he's giving up points whenever he's out on the court in those moments right there. So that's why you have a situation where Jemai Meshack, who's not very offensive, plays more than a guy like him. Mm-hmm. And it's again, if you can put his defense with Darlington Dubar, man, you might have another All-American. But that squad didn't have that. And again, tip of the cap for them beating Kentucky, putting them out of the tournament, but that was an embarrassment yesterday, and at least in the first half. They fought as much as you needed them to, but I think you see hearing those guys, Zakai and his press conference, man, speaking about how hard the season was. And, like, you can say that because he's done and he's out forever at this point. But 7 scholarship players, losing your bigs the way they did. I think losing Estrella, I think you saw that yesterday. There was other times throughout the course of the season you can survive, but like having another big like him would have played a huge compliment to a guy like Felix Akpara.
And they had 9 scholarship players. They just didn't play.
I mean,
a couple of them.
It just going off what Zakai said, like the trust of being able to use that 7 that they had. I mean, that's asking a lot right there.
A quick question for you guys in terms of just noting some of the losses that the Vols had this year. You had mentioned a couple of those, right? When you come off of that type of win against Kentucky, knowing that in a way you almost have to beat this Kentucky team, obviously, to move on in the tournament, but also like you don't want to get swept 3 times by a Kentucky team. And then coming out like with that slow kind of start in terms of your shots, because there's no doubt that in the second half, guys, I thought they played in a way better than Houston. I mean, obviously they couldn't get over the hump, but I feel like they weren't going to, give up at any point. And I felt like when they brought it within 10, I'm thinking, okay, they could pull this off. They were playing, I think, better basketball at that point. But what do you think anything carried over from maybe that Kentucky high they were on to the kind of low that they started off with this game in Houston with Houston?
I personally don't see that because everybody, those guys wanted that for Coach Barnes. So I don't think there's an idea that they were overlooking Houston or they gave out too much in the Kentucky game. Yeah, and I don't want to say
overlooking.
Yeah, not overlooking. You didn't say that, but like the idea that they gave a lot for the Kentucky game.
It was one of the worst shooting performances in the first half ever in a tournament.
The difference is Kentucky doesn't have the defense like Houston.
I just think Houston's that good a defense.
Yeah.
I mean, they forced them to take a lot of jump shots. Like, if Tennessee hadn't played that same first half over and over this year, I would say probably. Mm-hmm. But we've seen Tennessee have first halves like that all season. This was just the worst version of it. Yeah. Like, this was on the way to being like the first Kentucky game where Tennessee shot 40-something threes and were settling because they couldn't get penetration in the lane.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think those two correlate right there when you look at Houston. I'm seeing the images in my head on how they defended like the paint. Like they didn't move. There were like brick walls around it. And when you force a team like Tennessee, like it's one thing if they'd have hit 4 of those threes, especially early. Like you got to think the Vols didn't even get a score, I don't think, until close to the 16-minute timeout. Yeah. Like, it was that low for a while. It was off free throws at that too.
For a while.
So it was, they forced the Vols in a very uncomfortable position. Like you mentioned, like doing too much for the Kentucky game. That to me is a no. As it pertains to the idea of them winning this one.
It was the matchup with Houston just clearly was not a good one.
Yeah, I mean, and Slay said that in the chat. Like, he's talked about that all year when in matchups. And that's what's kind of then unfortunate, in a tournament. Because if you're drawing the short end of the sticks in terms of matchups, sometimes, like, it's hard to ever get over the hump.
But that's all. Yeah.
Last year we said it with Purdue.
Yep,
it was not the right matchup.
It's a very harsh tournament in that way.
It is.
In that way.
That's the reason, I was listening to, the way Duke's coach was saying, how they built their team up. Like, they built their team up of, the best bigs and players that you can get in the country. Yeah. From Cooper Flagg all the way down to the player from Sudan. I forget their big name. Their big center.
Malak.
Yes, Malak. All of those guys. You have to almost be strategic in how you go to the portal, having the ability to hit the portal, and also the guys that you lose over the course of the season. Again, losing the point guards, Zakai acknowledged that. Plays a part in it too, because maybe that's another guy besides Gainey that can get out there and play defense for you and also score. That way you can get Meshack off for a little bit longer. So it's those things that play a part in it too.
I think Tennessee's priority in the portal will obviously be replacing Zakai Ziegler and finding a point guard, because Bishop Boswell is not your starting point guard next season. With respect to him, that's not his position even. He is a combo guard that really is going to be more of a shooting guard than a point guard. Yeah, he's kind of like a Jordan Gainey, to be honest with you, but they've got to find a driver that can go make tough twos or a back-to-the-basket big man you could throw it down to and just let him cook. because that is what you go to when the shots aren't falling. You play inside out. You establish it's kind of like establishing the run game.
Yeah, it is.
In football, you go inside, you take it to the rim, you open up the outside shooting when the tough twos inside start falling, and you're in position to grab rebounds because you're right there next to the basket, not shooting it from 25 feet away. And you've got one guy in the paint and rebound because you're playing 4 out and 1 in. Like, that was the challenge for Tennessee. They needed a big game from Igor Milicic. They needed to make jump shots. That was always going to be the method of victory against Houston. You're not going to go in the lane. You're not going to be able to drive with Sakai Ziegler the way you are against more inferior defenses and other opponents. You've got to just shoot and make them, or you've got to create live ball turnovers and beat them down before their defense gets set up. The press was not good it wasn't like the press wasn't good enough. Houston just was really good at handling the basketball.
Right.
They didn't turn it over. They didn't give you live ball turnovers to go lay it up before the defense got set. And when the defense was set, you couldn't drive, you couldn't get to the rim. So it's pretty logical. You just got to make shots. They didn't.
It was. And then, of course, too, like you said, the turnovers and just moments where they could not, like, around the rim, the ball wasn't going in. And then you have Houston in a position to where their guys, and the commentator somewhat acknowledged that too, like they were making shots that they hadn't made in a while. And if Houston had got offensive the way they did yesterday, it was going to be a long day for the Vols. It was, as Savage has said, matchup and their coach, their team, defensive efficiency, elite. You saw it to me. Like, I had a tune of saying Florida is the go-to team, and I still think they are, and I think Duke is good too.
Any of the 4 of them can win it. Any of the 4 of them.
Any of them.
I have no idea who's going to win it. I still think Duke, because that's been my gut the whole tournament, but
they're the favorites.
I will not be surprised if any of the 4 teams win the Natty.
Yeah. Duke, watching them, you ain't see much of a lapse.
No. I don't see many weaknesses in any of these teams right now, to be honest with you. 615-737-1045. Tristan is in Brentwood. Hey, Tristan.
Hey, okay. Why can't we get like a 7-footer, like go to Europe, Africa, or Russia to get a 7-footer for Tennessee Vols, like for Canada? Like, we need a 7-footer. Like, look at Florida; they have a 7'9" guy that will play next year, and that's what we're missing. Like to back up the who's Acapora, and like. Is it time for Rick Barnes to retire? I know I'm just like he's getting older, like, and the last time he was in the Final Four was in 2003. I'm just
thank you, Tristan. We'll talk about it. Appreciate the call.
They're 7-foot Americans.
That's a rough start.
Lots to take out of it. By the way,
you have one. His name's JP Estrella. He's been out for the season with a foot injury.
Yeah, you got.
He's 6'11".
Yeah, there we go.
yeah, if Rick Barnes retire, like. First of all, Kelvin Sampson's like 68, 69. Rick's 70. I mean, that doesn't matter.
These
like,
are also
if they
human
still
beings.
want to coach, like they still can coach at the highest level.
Just throwing out continents. Let's just go pick one. Like these are humans. Like let's have a little bit more respect for.
Yeah, I get where you was trying to come from. But there's a way to say that without. Yeah, there's a way to say that. We'll leave that one alone and talk about that off air. There's a better way to.
You also had one named Jonas Adu who transferred to Arkansas.
Yeah. That type of stuff happen.
So, I mean, that's the world you live in now, the transfer portal.
Yeah.
You can go get a 7-footer. Doesn't mean he's going to stay when he wants a pay raise or when he hears that his teammate's leaving and then he leaves too. So
yeah, exactly.
It was weird.
It was very weird. Now people want tall folks out here, huh? Yeah, I get it.
Not time for Rick Barnes to retire. Absolutely not. 2 straight Elite Eights. You've only been to 1. Now you've gone to 2 back-to-back, and you kept Kentucky from getting there.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, again,
there's no reason to run off Rick Barnes right now.
And you say some people saying choke job. Okay, well,
I wouldn't worry
there's
about that.
other coaches that haven't got to that spot yet either. I mean, Kelvin Sampson's still trying to, push his way to a championship. Like, these are coaches that have been in it a long time. Sometimes you never win. It doesn't mean you're a bad coach or a choke artist.
Right. I'd love to know how Tennessee, a 2.5 point underdog, choked yesterday.
And also,
it's just not the way that works.
There's a guy that
caller approval rating would just went up.
Yeah, there's a guy that's won a national championship in 2000 and Tom Izzo that hadn't been back since then either. So there's always that. Like, it's 25 years for him since his last title. So I don't want to make it seem like it's easy for you to win the title. Just because you're a fan of a team doesn't mean that your team is automatically in those moments right there. So sports is weird. The other team has just as much, if not more, than you do, and I think yesterday in this tournament showed that too. These being the number ones around is that shows again the coaches that they have. All these teams play defense, and also they did the right things as far as the portal was concerned.
615-737-1045. More of your phone calls and reaction to the weekend of the tournament coming up next. RKW is brewed by Scooters Coffee on 104.5 The Zone. Wrap it up hour 1, 615-737-1045, the number. So according to Ken Palm, guys, 4 of the best 10 teams ever are the 4 Final Four teams. According to Ken Palm numbers, Duke, number 2 of all time.
Wow.
Houston, number 6 all time. Florida, number 8 all time. Auburn, number 10 all time. And to think the number 1 overall seed is the 4th best team, according to the analytics. Heading into the Final Four, cinema. That is what we are waiting for this weekend.
So I hate to keep using his situation, but as far as Stephen A was concerned, this is the Final Four that you want right here. This is the one.
As far as what America wants, yes.
Yeah.
Maybe not in this area of the country, but yes, it's going to be awesome.
By the way, Auburn fans showed up. It looked like on their broadcast, they looked
very
like
close
they
to
were
campus.
Yeah, they were having a grand
It's a big
time.
alumni base down there, too.
Yeah,
It's like when
recognized.
Jemai Broom came back out, that place erupted. I was like, whoa.
Yes. It was like a home game for
Home
them,
guys,
man.
you say home
big time.
court advantage.
And it was home game for Tennessee and Indy yesterday, too.
Yeah.
How
It was
that?
80% Tennessee
It looks
fans there.
orange.
Good old time.
Now, this has nothing to do with the result of the game. Never, ever, 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 ever again should there be a basketball game in half of a football stadium in the Sweet 16 ever again.
Ever again?
That is terrible for everyone involved, from players to media to fans. They don't care about the fans. That is an awful experience for fans. Awful. The sight lines, it is, you're so far from the court. It is terrible.
Wow.
Terrible.
We've seen it in championship games for the Final Four, but I don't think I've usually seen it in the other, Sweet 16s.
Used to be
Elite
the
Eight
SEC tournament in the
situations.
Georgia Dome, too.
Yeah. And
They don't do
you
that
said
anymore.
they halved it?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's not
It was terrible.
probably great.
It was very weird.
I was wondering if that was going to be the case as it pertains to like the amount of people that was trying to go. I'm not sure why they do that. Again, when you have those events like that, especially when you got to put a court on the platform and bring in stands, like there's always going to be that gap, Kayla, that like where it just looks weird. It's kind of like, to be honest with you, the Bristol game. Where
That's what it felt like.
That's
what it felt like.
a football
At the
game at Bristol. Like
Speedway.
the idea of having that many people and having it set up to where, hey, this is just like being in the Coliseum, it's not. And I was wondering how the sound was, how the crowd was. Like
Very weird.
It was
Yeah,
weird.
I'd be
The
interested
lighting.
in that as well.
I saw media people saying they were hitting numbers on their camera they'd never touched because it was so bright on the floor.
Yeah.
man.
When you're white balancing and stuff, that could be a nightmare.
Like the f-stop
Really?
and
Yeah.
like how much the aperture and how much light is going into the camera because you're shooting manually with like if you're a professional like that.
Yep.
Very, very weird. So anyway, it had nothing to do with the result of the game, obviously, but for the fan experience, it was not great.
I ain't gonna lie to you. For all things that had happened yesterday, I had a hell of a time on Friday. Do you hear me? The Kentucky, just getting that one. Because here's the thing. Like,
It's a weird feeling you get out of the weekend because of it.
it was, man.
Because you forget it was this weekend. Like
No,
that.
But
you
like
know?
everybody's like, oh, you have some class. No, screw having some class.
Because they'll bury you on the other side when you
They
lose,
will.
too.
I'm talking
And they
about
did. They tried to yesterday.
kick you in a corner as much as you possibly. No, screw that. Absolutely not. Where's your Final Four? Well, where was your Elite Eight this week? Okay, how about
Sure.
that? All right, it was. It's fascinating being, and I know this is like every fan base too. I was seeing other fan bases go at each other about losing and trash talking and stuff. But the times that you can bury your rival, and I think Tennessee versus Kentucky is a rival in basketball.
Oh, no doubt.
You have to. And they did. And the same sentiments we had yesterday, they had on Friday. It was a few days earlier. My algorithm was full of Kentucky hate, and it was a beautiful sight to see, y'all. So I appreciate them at least doing that, because could you imagine?
No.
No. Could you imagine the conversation behind the Vols had
I
Kentucky
think people
got
are
there?
mad now.
Yeah.
Like, just imagine if they couldn't beat Kentucky for the third time this season and not advance.
And it's exactly why anyone insinuating Rick Barnes needs to retire at this point that is an insane opinion to me. That is a completely insane opinion.
Yes, it was.
Tennessee has been one of the most consistent basketball programs in the sport over the last 5 years. They finished top 10 in Ken Palm for 4 years in a row. I believe Tennessee and Houston are actually the only teams to do that.
That's what they
to be
showed
this
yesterday.
consistent over 4 years in a row. In this sport, like it doesn't make you feel any better today. You just got to keep knocking on the door until it opens. And until you get the right matchup, until you make enough shots, till you get the right guy that gets hot. And I think what's tough is that you felt like Tennessee had finally done that. They played themselves out of having to be in the same region as Duke by beating Auburn in the SEC tournament. They put themselves with Houston instead, and then Houston now has gotten hot as well. And, what I wish had happened is I wish Purdue had finished off the upset on Houston, because I think there is no chance. There's no chance. I don't think Tennessee loses to Purdue. I think Purdue would have been a great matchup for Tennessee.
It would have been, man. But none of that honestly matters, Will, unless you hit your shots with this squad that we have right now.
Yeah.
Like that to me, like to your point on the Kentucky game, like they weren't as hot as you needed them to. Like those shots, like as far as beyond the 3-point line, came in like spurts. It wasn't consistent.
But when you missed them against Kentucky, you're getting offensive rebounds and just putting it back in. And that's what you couldn't do against Houston.
Could not.
And you could have done that against Purdue.
And it looked like it was a bigger emphasis. I will say that in that game. But here's also the other part of it. I can think that, but Houston wasn't allowing it. Houston's, I got to give it to them, the hustle, the push, I felt like, to get them extra shots and extra points around the rim was Tennessee couldn't battle it. They just could not, man. And all things that they had done against the Kentucky bigs, they could not do it against them, because you got to give it to Houston. Discipline as heck is what I looked at their team.
So you just get a lot of crazy comments with Rick Barnes. I think the narrative on Rick Barnes is so lazy, because he's still getting punished for mistakes he made at Texas that were happening when a lot of, like when I was in middle school. Like, we have one comment. In the regular season, Rick Barnes is like the Ryan Tannehill-led Titans. He made 3 straight Sweet 16s and 2 straight Elite 8s. What do you exactly want the guy to do?
Consistent.
Like, is he supposed to go out there and shoot the ball for them?
Yeah.
That makes sense.
I just don't. Yeah, I don't think people appreciate like how tough it is to consistently not only just make the tournament, but make it to the point where they've made it. Once you hit that Elite 8, it is tougher for any team to get over the hump. I mean, being from, I'm just trying to relate here in your guys' case, being from Spokane and watching Gonzaga grow up as a program and seeing them have teams to win it all. And they've gotten to that point and they haven't been able to ever win it. Like, it is so tough. And would you be any happier? I get it. You'd go to your first Final Four, but if you don't win a championship, you're almost just like, well, it's just the Final Four.
You can't get tired of winning.
It's hard to go from great to championship.
It's real tough,
It's
guys.
the hardest step to make in sports. And right now, Tony Vitello's the only Tennessee coach that's done it.
It's done it
Right.
now.
Tennessee is the good at everything school.
Right.
They are right now.
Enjoy
They've
that,
only
too.
had that magical run in one sport. And you just got to keep knocking on the door till it happens.
But think about how long it took Tony V to get to that point, though, relatively. Like, the year that you thought they were going to do it, that didn't happen.
That's right.
You know, like it.
We said that earlier. We said that a couple weeks ago. Like, this might not be the team to do it. Like with Rick Barnes, or with Bruce Pearl, his best team on paper was not the one that made the Elite 8.
Right.
His best team on paper lost to Louisville in the Sweet 16 with Chris Lofton as a senior, who we know what he was battling his entire senior year as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Don't get tired of losing. And I think we've gotten to that point. I saw somebody like randomly tweet that. It's like, when has the criteria for success only been championships? Like, I get it. You're right. It is. Like, championships is the goal. But, like, when is that the only barometer of what's good?
It shows how much Tennessee basketball as a program has ascended, considering people are so disappointed with an Elite 8. Conversely, it shows how far Kentucky's fallen, that they're happy with the Sweet 16 and happy to just talk about Houston winning.
Yo, my boy.
And not about them. You used to celebrate your own team's wins. Now you just say, oh, you have no Final Fours. How the mighty have fallen.
Come on, dog.
615-737-1045. Hour 2 next. Brian Callahan talking about Cam Ward. We'll tell you what he says after this. What's up? It's Will Bowling. You've been looking for cars, and if you see the words buy here, pay here, maybe you're thinking, I'm headed somewhere else. Most of those dealers, they come with certain reputations, but I'm here to tell you there's one place you can go. That's Nolensville Road Auto Mart. And they're different for a few simple reasons. They have been doing business in Nashville for 61 years. Nashville natives like me that only sell clean title cars under 12 grand. So if you're new to town and you need a place to trust, they have got you. Or you need that first car for the 16-year-old, that new driver. You can check them out for that as well. 615-242-1279. One location on Nolensville Road, close to Thompson Lane. They'll get you in and out in an hour or less. And the best part, they're the oldest buy here, pay here in Nashville. That's 615-242-1279 at Nolensville Road Auto Mart.
It is 7:02. Good morning from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I'm Jackson Williams. The Final Four is set in the NCAA tournament. The Tennessee Vols men's basketball team had their season come to a close in the Elite Eight as they lost to the Houston Cougars 69-50 in Indianapolis. Houston joins Duke, Auburn, and Florida in the Final Four. All four teams playing on Saturday in San Antonio, with Florida and Auburn tipping off at 6:09 p.m., and Houston and Duke follow them at approximately 8:49. In NFL news, the Buffalo Bills and standout cornerback Christian Benford agreed to a 4-year, $76 million extension. The 2022 sixth-round pick out of Villanova started 15 games for Buffalo in 2024 and snagged 2 interceptions. The number 1 ranked Tennessee Vols baseball team won their third SEC series in as many tries, sweeping the South Carolina Gamecocks by scores of 11-7, 7-5, and 7-2, respectively. The Vols take on Tennessee Tech tomorrow for a midweek matchup before hosting Texas A&M this weekend for a rematch of last year's College World Series finals. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, you need to visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Our KW is brewed by Scooters Coffee on 104.5 The Zone as we roll into hour number 2. Scooters Coffee with locations in White House, Mount Juliet, Rivergate, Smyrna, and Brentwood. Download the Scooters Coffee mobile app today to order ahead and save $2 off your first mobile order. I do feel like I should give a disclaimer and an apology of how bad my voice sounds. I sound like prime Nickelback. Look at this graph.
Speaking
Here all morning, I apologize, and I know it's not fun listening to voices that are gone, so that's what you got today.
It ain't bad,
Sorry.
man. It ain't bad at all, Will. I'll be honest with you. I appreciate you coming back in. I know.
I'd rather be here with a bad voice than duck the smoke after
Yeah,
a
that
loss.
would not have looked good.
It would not have looked good at all.
Had
man.
family stuff last time Tennessee lost, so clearly I was going to be here today either way.
Yeah.
Yes.
Even with a 20% voice, but it's fine.
But our old friend, man, Bert Walsh, whatever we want to call him. Brett
that's
Walsh is
right.
what he is right
Bubba
now.
Walsh,
We were in
yeah.
the same vicinity yesterday at a restaurant. I took my my brother and his family to a good establishment, an Italian spot that we always speak about. And he was
We'll talk
there
off air.
too. He saw me. He saw
was
me.
just randomly there?
He and his boo thing, Cheyenne,
No
were in the
way.
same spot we were. He was like, "Hey, did you just leave said establishment?" I was like, "Yes." He was like, "I think I just saw you." He was like, "And you didn't say a thing, Bert?"
Oh, that is
Wrong. I'm
funny.
telling you, go to a new
What is
show and he
going on
act
with
brand
Bubba?
new out here, man. By the way, we had the Sunday sauce. Fire. Amazing.
Good way to spend a
Do
Sunday.
you hear me? Amazing, man. Did not have any libations or anything. But it was a good time yesterday. The environment over there is awesome.
Mike Garafolo of NFL Media, a part of the scrum with Brian Callahan down at NFL owners meetings. Callahan talking about Cam Ward, saying, "I like confidence. I think that's a good thing. When you're in the conversation for the number 1 pick, there comes a lot with it. To have fun with that is a good thing." Mentions that there is not a front runner, Brian Callahan, for the number 1 pick. Just a few moments ago, says the team is around 2 weeks away from solidifying their decision.
Yeah, I don't really know what to believe anymore with this narrative that's coming
Season
out
of
of there.
lies.
It's just
What
like
do you kind of think, though?
I really
if
don't.
you can go on like
I
your hunch,
don't know.
that gut feeling, what do you think?
I mean,
though?
from what the moves they've made in terms of no moves, pretty much with the quarterback position. And I'm sorry, like Brian Callahan can go out there and say as much as he wants about Brandon Allen and what type of guy he is, and I'm sorry, don't BS me. Like, he is a backup quarterback, if that. And if your team does not have a quarterback, which right now it does not appear to have a quarterback, maybe you're on Will Levis being the quarterback. If you're still in on that, I am not.
Well, we got,
But like
we
that,
got,
if
we
it's
got,
according to moves, Moan, I
Yeah.
think you have to take Cam Ward. But this is they're just pulling this crap of, well, we haven't decided yet. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It's I know this is the game they got to play, but it's just kind of annoying at this point. Like, and if you
You
don't
just want
feel
him to
like
say
if
Cam Ward.
well,
Want to go ahead and buy the jersey.
if you don't feel like it's Cam Ward yet, I don't know. I just feel like they're saying, no, we're open to everybody.
I think they're still open to Shedeur Sanders because they haven't seen him throw yet, privately.
That's why I was asking.
It's going to be Cam Ward. Let's be honest.
That's why I was asking, like, what's your gut feeling, though? Because a lot of times I
don't have one. I don't have a gut. Facts.
I mean, the gut feeling is Cam Ward. You can be honest about it. It's okay.
I don't know. I'm not going to lie. Well, no, I don't feel like that's my gut feeling because I feel like this is a front office. I don't know who they are yet.
Yeah.
And there's nothing really to go off of their work together that I'm like, oh yeah, they're telling the truth on this one. Oh yeah, this is what they're going to do. I don't know for sure if that is the case. That's what I want, but
Gotcha.
I don't know for sure if that's the case.
The reason I was asking because you was just like, you're tired of the Callahan thing, and I just thought it was comical considering like these are the games I feel like they have to play, but it's fascinating hearing you just say like he needs to stop with the crap and just go ahead and say what he wants. But
we've got backups here, okay?
It also, which is why like before I sang my tune for him last week, it's why I kept bringing up the conversations like, well, is it really going to be him? Like, is there still – here's my thing. Is there still a need to build the team up higher by getting more draft picks? And again, Will brought up the point they hadn't seen Shedeur privately. They hadn't been in a spot to where they can sit him down and not have it be – third person or through somebody else as far as the information that they're getting. There hasn't been much that Shedeur has given anybody at this point as far as the pre-draft. They get him in for a workout. Maybe their tune changes. It's just a matter of how do you accept if most of this fan base believe Cam Ward is the guy, they shift their attention to Shedeur. Those are the questions that you have to ask yourself if they're being truthful about.
Yeah.
It's still open.
Here's the thing you got to be wary of. Let's say in a crazy scenario, something causes Cam Ward's draft stock to plummet. And we've seen crazy scenarios as in videos of gas masks being put out the morning of the draft. I'm not insinuating that a gas mask video of Cam Ward's going to surface, but whether that's injury, whether that's something from, his career at I don't know what it is. I'm not saying that anything's going to happen where Cam Ward's draft stock's going to fall. But if they on March 31st say, yep, there's a front runner and it's Cam Ward, and then something out of Cam Ward's control causes you to have to pivot, what's Shedeur Sanders going to think then? Because then you got to draft a quarterback, and if you're boxing yourself into, well, you have to get a quarterback, well, then it's going to be hard to sell Shedeur Sanders because you clearly wanted Cam Ward, but then ... something else happened. Like, there is a lot of time until the NFL draft happens, and while, yes, I do believe that internally they know they're taking Cam Ward, it's not in their best interest to just come out and say it yet until they're on the clock and Roger Goodell is walking to the podium. I get it. I do.
Yeah, I think this, and I know the quarterback question is going to come up more than anything when Callahan has the availability to speak. But this whole notion, too, that they're still pushing this whole Will Levis situation. And again, maybe that is something that they're clearly considering. I mean, he is the only quarterback right now in the room that has been more of a starter, not a great starter at this point, but the one that they know the most. And I guess if that's the case, if he's the only one right now that you really could see as a starter on this roster, I guess that is what it is. And so you have to speak about him. But it does make it awkward and weird, every time I hear these guys speak.
Well, that's exactly where they want you. Coaches love discomfort.
It is.
Coaches love you not knowing what the heck your role is and why. Like, this is where players most times ask for transparency. Or the fan base, hey, let's just go player side of things. Like, that's one thing I would say I've always appreciated about Coach Former. I got to give it to him, and Coach Tomlin. Those two guys is transparent. If you were good, they told you were good. But a lot of times, like, guys walk into those buildings, go to those practices, and even play in those games and not recognize or, know if they're safe or not. Like, that plays a part in it. And this, I think, shows publicly, like, you're getting an opportunity now to see how coaches and front offices work.
Yeah.
Like, yes, coach,
and
I'm
for
a
the
lock.
first time together.
No, it's just like the scenario of, like, I'm a lock for the roster. Then next thing you know, a guy gets cut. Like, they have to, and I guess, Will, your point you brought, like, the fairness of, like, doing the job where you can't say, I overly love this person, or, hey, this is the thing for us, And then the next thing you know, they have to pivot and go in a different direction. That's why, honestly, it was two reasons why I've been like on the trade back train, It's because of the assets that you can get as far as trading back to build up a team. But it's also, are you equipped to handle him as far as being a head coach and a front office as the quarterbacks too?
That's my biggest
their
question.
problem. Like, they got to answer that. But I think we're getting now just a glimpse behind the glass on how the business of like professional sports do work. They have to be touch and go with a lot of these situations.
And that's my biggest question, though. That's why I don't know what exactly to trust, because not only because it's that time of year, it's lion season, all that stuff that goes along with it, but this is the first time that we have seen Mike Borgonzi, Chad Brinker, and Brian Callahan working together to find out what is best for this team. And so we can say all we want, like, okay, this is what's best to trade down, or this is what's best to take Cam Ward. But is Brian Callahan and Mike Borgonzi and Chad, are they on the same page? Like, that's what's fascinating.
Like it. I'll be honest with you. With all that they're saying, which is nothing,
Yeah,
it seems like they're on the same page with this one. Because, again, what seems obvious right now isn't what's happening. Like, they're still saying everybody's up as far as, like, the number one pick not being sold. And verbatim, each one seems to be saying the exact same thing. So they have the plan. They're just not divulging it. We'll see if somebody gets a leak inside of that little group that they have right now.
And so far it hasn't.
Right now, there's no leaks.
Coming up, Stoney Keeley of football and other F words, the RKW draft expert, scouts draft defensive backs next.
It's Ramon Foster for United Structural Systems. Good people, man, is your concrete in need of repair? Maybe your sidewalk is shifting, your driveway is cracked or sinking also, or your porch steps, maybe they've moved. Shifting concrete can create a dangerous situation and just trip hazard around your home. If you didn't know, it can also cause you to get in trouble. But besides that, it's also a big eyesore. Whatever's going on with your concrete, call United Structural Systems. Ask them about their polyurethane foam injections. And you've heard about USS for a very long time. This is the same company that's provided superior foundation and waterproofing to Middle Tennessee since 1994. Well, guess what? They can fix your sunken or settling concrete. USS uses polyurethane foam injection to lift and repair your sinking concrete in just a matter of minutes. Lifted concrete can be walked on immediately or even driven on after 30 minutes. So don't go through that long, expensive process of ripping out and replacing concrete. Reach out to the company I trust, man, and that's USSTN.com. That's USSTN.com, or call them at 615-488-7855.
Hey, it's Football Nugget. You looking to check some items off your home to-do list this spring? Hey, maybe you're just looking to freshen up your home's look before hosting friends and family as the weather warms over the coming months. Well, hey, available 24/7, 365. The Lee Company handyman professionals have you covered. From pressure washing your driveway or deck to drywall repairs, landscape lighting, painting, and more, Lee Company is all you need. Visit Lee Company online at leecompany.com to schedule your appointment today. That's leecompany.com. To trust the folks with over 80 years of experience. Open 24/7, 14 community locations in Tennessee, Kentucky, and Alabama. Give them a call, 615-567-1000, or schedule an appointment online at leecompany.com. That's Lee Company, all you need. RKW Brew by Scooters Coffee on 104.5 The Zone continues with the official RKW draft expert joining us this morning. We continue build up to the NFL draft with our good friend Stoney Keeley, who joins us now. We are talking defensive backs this morning. Stoney, what's going on?
Well, Will, I'm a little embarrassed this morning, to be honest with you. I thought we were doing the show from lawnmowers from now on.
Yes.
I'm sitting on my zero turn in my office, and I'm feeling a little silly because you guys are back to normal, and I misread the room on that one.
It is really funny, Stoney, because we put out the YouTube video interviewing Cam and Shador's quarterbacks coach, Daryl Colbert, last week, and there's this whole YouTube audience of just random people that found our video who are probably so confused why we were sitting on lawnmowers, who aren't familiar with the show. So maybe that's a future football and other F words, Tony. You guys can just do it from zero turns as well and follow our lead.
I love that. You always got to keep them guessing. Never let them know what your next move is.
I love it.
Sound like the Titans.
Sounds like Brian Callahan out of numbers meetings right now. Stoney, it's hard to keep people guessing about who the best defensive back is in this draft. As we talk about DBs, talk about corners and safeties this morning, how far ahead is Travis Hunter for you from the next best corner in this draft? Or is there someone else you like more at that position?
Yeah, so I do think Travis Hunter is the best defensive back in this class. The raw speed, the athleticism, we've talked about that. I actually don't think the gap is as wide as it is at wide receiver. I think Jahdae Barron is a pretty damn good defensive back. I think he's number 2 at this point. You have Will Johnson. You have Siobhan Revelle, Azaria Thomas, a bunch of guys that could be first-round selections. I think it's actually a lot more crowded at the top than at the wide receiver position, though I do still think that Travis Hunter's raw speed and athleticism make him number 1.
So, Stoney, when you look at this defensive backs class overall, how deep is it at corner and at safety? We've spent so much time talking about if this really is a rebuild. You kind of take what the board gives you, right? If you're Mike Borgonzi and the Titans, just because you need edge rushers and receivers doesn't mean that's necessarily what you're going to do at 35 or at a lot of high points in this draft. So if you are taking what the board gives you, what is the board giving you at DB this time around?
Yeah, so I actually think, both positions, corner and safety, are positions that the Titans probably need to start thinking about the future, regardless of the personnel decisions they've made so far this offseason. I won't be surprised at all if they draft a safety. If they draft a corner, I think it's a lot more rich at the cornerback position. I do think corner is one of the strengths of this class, and even at the top, if you need a bona fide starter, week 1 caliber guy, there is a myriad of options for, basically pick your flavor. It's if you need a man corner, you got him. A zone corner, you got him. Nickel, outside, whatever the case may be, there's a guy who specializes in that thing. I think it's something that's pretty unique about the position. You can go a bunch of different ways with it, and this year there just happens to be an available option that is worthy of a first-round pick wherever you decide to go. Safety, not so much. I'm a big fan of Malachi Starks. I do think he's one of the 10 best players in this draft. And there's Nick Emenwari and a couple of other guys at the top of the class. But after that, it feels like the depth in this group really falls off a cliff. And you are going for developmental guys that may do one thing really well. And if you need that thing, sure, maybe he can be a depth piece or special teamers. So I like the corner class much better than I like the safety class, but it's not to say that there's not value to be had in either position late in the draft.
Stoney Keeley, football and other F words with us this morning, discussing safeties and pre-draft prospects. Stoney, with that being said, I wanted to go back to the safeties real quick as you bring it up, because I feel like the first 3, Nick Emenwari, Malachi Starks, and Xavier Watts are probably the belle of the ball as it pertains to that group. But if we can start with Nick Emenwari, like seeing him at 6'3", at his size, also running a 4.43, what does that do for teams? Because I feel like these days, except for this last offseason free agency, like safeties are primarily taken in the draft, and you try to maximize as much as you can before you have to pay them. Like that's one of those positions, a safety, that's kind of treated like running back at this point.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's sort of devalued along with the linebacker position as well, because you hear it all the time, like, well, safety, linebacker, running back, they're not important positions. But then if you can get a guy like a Kyle Hamilton at safety, like a Fred Warner at linebacker, they make those positions pretty important. So everybody's going to be looking for that guy. And while I do think Malachi Starks is that level of safety, I'm not quite sold on Nick Emenwari, but Ramon, I think you're right. I think it's those three guys, Starks, Emenwari, and Xavier Watts. Those are the three safeties I have, 1, 2, and 3 on my board. I think Emenwari gets into that territory where, yeah, good complete project, but he has that one thing that you just can't get out of the back of your head. For me, it's how he kind of overruns angles in the run. He whiffs a lot of tackles. It's not to say that he's not a willing hitter, but he just, his aim seems to be off sometimes. It's really weird. But you're talking about a guy at the safety position that is 6'3", 220 pounds. He had the elusive 10 out of 10 relative athletic score, which for those that might not know, tracks size, speed, and explosion grades relative to the position group. The comp out there is Cam Chancellor. So if you hear that name, you know, it's going to get people excited. Mm-hmm. But I do think that he's going to end up being a first-round pick, probably later in the first round. There are some people that are really, really high on Emenwari, but I think he has a couple of things to work on.
It's fascinating you mentioned Emenwari in that fashion. And, like, there's a guy on the Titans that you feel like, well, if you get Emenwari, do you keep him as safety? Do you make him James Williams 2.0? Like, what is, in your opinion, the differences in watching what James Williams did at safety for Miami that's made him a linebacker as opposed to keeping Nick Emenwari at a potential NFL safety? Is, I guess, what does he possess that James doesn't at this point, if you've seen that?
Yeah, I think Emenwari is just a better athlete. I think he has a little more twitch. I think he is a little quicker, a little more explosive. And I think those are ultimately the traits that are going to keep him at safety, because I do think Emenwari has some range to cover. It's just, for me, like, I kept coming back to the tackling issue. Like, why is he rushing up to the line and whiffing on these tackles all the time and overrunning angles and that sort of thing? But I think it's the coverage aspect that I don't think we necessarily saw with James Williams when he was coming out of Miami, because he was kind of the inverse of that. We watched James Williams, saw him for the first time at the Senior Bowl, and thought, and this guy is just a heat-seeking missile. Why even put him at safety? Just put him at linebacker so he's closer to the line of scrimmage, and he can just shoot gaps and get after guys. I think that would be the distinction between the two, is that teams probably look at Emenwari and they say, well, this guy can cover. We can work on the tackling issues.
It makes sense.
Stoney Keeley, our draft analyst here on RKW, joining us this morning. We're breaking down safeties and corners in the NFL draft. If the Titans do decide, and again, we go back to this notion of there's so many spots to fill, but if there was somebody they could get on day 3, cornerback or safety, who's a name that would maybe be worth going and getting and seeing if that development process can happen?
Yeah, there's a couple of guys, and it's like we talked about when we talked about offensive tackles. The good thing about having a top-heavy class is that if some of these great elite upper echelon players kind of crowd around the first and second round, it means that better players are probably going to slide down to day 3. There are quite a few guys in this corner class that I like. I'll start with Noel Williams out of Cal. Shorter arms. I say he has cartoon feet, and what I mean by that is, like, they shuffle a bit sometimes in between stopping and starting, you know, like Scooby-Doo or, you know, Roadrunner or Wile E. Coyote.
That's
runs
great.
off the edge of the cliff and keeps running, that sort of thing. Like, there's some issues there with the change of direction, but he's a battle-tested man corner, feisty punch, good size, good balance, experience playing man, which I think Denard Wilson covets. So I think he would be a good fit. But I really want to talk about Upton Stout. I think he might be a safety in the NFL. He's a slot corner out of Western Kentucky. This guy would be an absolute outlier at 5'8", so he's short. But he plays like he's 10 feet tall and bulletproof. Sticky in the slot, speed, fluidity, instincts. I mean, this guy's like Scrappy-Doo out there. I like Upton Stout quite a bit. And I feel like Never mind. I was going to say I feel like the Titans have sniffed around on him, but I don't know if I'm getting my reporting mixed up, so I better not.
I feel like I need to go watch Scooby-Doo all over just after this segment today. I'm very appreciative of that. Stoney Keeley joining us now, breaking down some of the NFL draft prospects. So when you go back to the safety spot in terms of those top safeties, what is it about Xavier Watts where he's getting a lot of praise? I know you said you liked Starks, but I've heard a lot of good things in terms of what's coming out of Notre Dame and Watts.
Yeah, absolutely. I like Watts quite a bit. I've said on Football and Other F Words before, I'm not going to be mad if he's the pick at 35. I like him that much. I think he's pro-ready. I think, there may not be anything that he does that is elite, but he's a pretty well-rounded guy. He's instinctive against the run, hard-charging tackler. He sheds blocks at the edge to pursue the ball carrier. In coverage, he can drop back. He reads the quarterback's eyes, and he kind of uses that to help whichever corner may need it, getting over to the catch point. He just always seems to find a way to the ball. I think some of his arm tackles can be run through a little bit, and you look at the traits, and they're just average athletic traits, but I feel like Watts is a guy that can come in and play in the NFL right away and has a pretty good, well-rounded skill set.
Stoney Keeley, Football and Other F Words, tag of the inbox where he covers the NFL draft as well with us this morning. Stoney, two guys on the opposite ends of the Red River rivalry at safety, Billy Bowman and Andrew Makuba. As you evaluate those two, who do you like more and how good of fits could they be here in Tennessee?
Oh, I'm definitely on the Makuba train.
Yep.
I've actually got him at safety 4, and I would actually include him in that caliber of guys that you could get at the top of the position group that could probably contribute right away. I think he can be anything that you need him to be, and this is no slight on Billy Bowman Jr. I like him as well, too. That was a guy that we heard a lot down at the Senior Bowl. You'd hear people talking in the stands, and they'd just be like, oh, did you see what Billy Bowman Jr. did today? That kind of thing. He's another guy that can be whatever you need him to be all over the field, that sort of thing. But Makuba is sort of a jack of all trades. Texas even had him in like a hybrid linebacker-ish role at times, defending the flat, defending the hook wall spot, the hole defender, like just wherever you needed him to defend, they would put him there. Kind of lacking a little bit in change of direction, but he has instincts, recognition, good ball skills, and he has aim and fire speed to just get to wherever he needs to go. I think Makuba is a sneaky good, well-rounded, all-around safety pick.
Stoney, the Titans certainly got a good corner out of Louisville last season in Jarvis Brownlee. Well, there's another one in Quincy Riley coming out this time around. What is it about Louisville corners that are possible fits in terms of Denard Wilson defenses, and does Riley fit that mold as well?
I don't know what it is about the Louisville DBs. They got something going down there in Louisville. But I'm a big fan of Quincy Riley. He was another guy that really impressed me at the Senior Bowl, just kind of had a savvy quality to him. And it really was a lot like watching Jarvis Brownlee Jr. at the Senior Bowl the year before. It's like he meets the size and athletic thresholds Riley does. He's got long arms. He has length to really get his hand in the throwing window and break up passes at the catch point. But he's just a really savvy guy, and that was the thing that I kind of connected to Brownlee the year before. Is like he's out there running routes for the wide receivers. He knows when to undercut a route and when to get his hand after the ball, that sort of thing. Really savvy quality to his game. That's a guy that's probably going to be there on day 3 that I wouldn't be surprised if the Titans were interested in. I wouldn't be surprised if he is an option for this team late.
Stoney, when you look at the rest of this class, man, it's a guy that's been touted as a first-rounder, didn't play a snap this year, man. It's Siobhan Revel out of ECU. What has made his conversation keep him, or his tape, keep him in the first round as it pertains to corners this year? I didn't know a lot about him, but, of course, our good friend Robert Walsh told us all about him, man, and they seem to be another one of those schools that will push out these types of gems from time to time.
Yeah, you mentioned the torn ACL. 2024 was not a great way for his season to end. I'm really high on him. I like him quite a bit. I would say go back to 2023's Michigan tape to see what this guy can be at full health going up against a big program, the eventual national champions that year. It was some pretty impressive stuff. I think you're banking on if you can get the guy back to 100% health, of course. I think that's probably what kicked him out of the top 10. I think at one point he was considered top 10, top 15 caliber player. Obviously, the torn ACL is going to damage that stock a bit. But when you watch his tape, you see a guy that he plays with really clean footwork, the back pedal, the hip turn. It's all smooth. He understands leverage. He plays outside to funnel guys inside to squeeze them against the sideline, anticipates routes well, runs the routes for the wide receiver. There's a really heady quality to his game on top of the physical traits where this guy's just super long. This guy has the arm length to play press man coverage, and there's not a lot of guys in college that do that these days. So I think you do look at the traits, you look at the fluidity, and your mouth has got to be watering, thinking about the possibilities of if you can get this guy back to 100% health.
Stoney Keeley, our guest this morning, our draft analyst. You can also check him out on Football and Other F Words podcast. So this has been an interesting guy in terms of, we know what he did at Alabama and Malachi Moore. A smaller safety, 5'11", 196. I do feel like his draft stock has maybe lowered a little bit. Is that because of the injury, Stoney?
Yeah, I think there are a couple of things, but Malachi Moore's case has been really puzzling to your point, Kayla, because I think he's got a ton of experience at multiple spots in Alabama's defense, playing up in coverage, supporting the run, different spots like high, low, whatever. I think he's got experience in the SEC, and that's a valuable thing. He's got really good ball tracking skills. Not really the best athlete, I would say, but I don't think in a safety class where it's really thin once you get past that upper level of guys, I don't think he should be sliding as far as he has. I don't know. There's part of me that thinks people are still mad about him, like kicking the football or whatever in the Vanderbilt game. That's been a big talking point this season. But I'm like, we got to come together and figure this one out, because this is a good football player with experience that I don't think should be sliding as far as he has.
I mean, the Titans might need a practice squad kicker, to be honest with you. I mean, options behind Joey Sly, Stoney.
Hey, it's like I said when I said this about Anthony Belton, like the Titans could use some guys that spit in people's faces. The Titans could probably use some guys that are going to kick the football.
Honestly.
Right.
Honestly.
I mean, I'm here for it. I did it in high school. I think I got at least that left.
You did do it, yes.
Stoney, 36 yards, baby. Anything
That's Tennessee Mr. Football lineman and kicker, Ramon Foster speaking. Stoney Keeley is our guest leading up to the NFL Draft Monday mornings. Excellent stuff as always, Tony. Thank you, sir.
Appreciate you, Stoney.
Appreciate y'all. Let's go have a Monday.
Hey, now
we'll talk next week.
Get that zero turn out of your office now.
I know. Yeah, just my face is red. I'm embarrassed. We gotta shut this down.
I love it. Thank you, Stoney. All right, Stoney Keeley with us here this morning. Corner and safety options. It's going to be one of the strong options at 35, no doubt.
And like you said, you got to at some point go and get your younger stock of those, because right now there's not many on the roster.
It ain't. And it's got to be a perfect balance between having youth and experience on your team. That way guys can pass on what you're trying to coach.
Coming up, more reaction from owners' meetings where Jim Wyatt had an interesting interview with Titans brass about Will Levis yesterday. That's next.
It's Ramon Foster for the Wellness Institute of Nashville. Good people, they have my seal of approval on this deal that could help change your life. It's their behind the lines offer where they give you where it's $37. There's a consultation involved in that. That includes a doctor's visit, x-rays if you need them, and your first treatment. If you also need more in-depth treatment, well, because you're part of the Zone family, you will get an additional 50% off spinal decompression treatment. Dr. Mitchell and Dr. Asher just want you to get better, and there's no better deal to have than with the Wellness Wellness Institute of Nashville right now. Listen, I don't care if you've been lifting all your life, whether you've been picking up stuff or just your day-to-day living, or it could be genetics where you just need some relief on your back. They have some of the best treatment around, whether it be lasers, the state-of-the-art spinal decompression machines, or even the zero-gravity machines where they lay you down, and I promise you, no pain at all as it pertains to the treatment they will give you. So start your road to a pain-free life, and it is possible. All right, call today the Wellness Institute of Nashville at 615-246-5009 or go to painisbad.com.
Don't think that there's something wrong with your house and that's why it's not selling. You just need an expert and proven marketing guy, in terms of the guy that I trust, a real estate agent like Bernie Gallerani. He and his team market homes to thousands of buyers every month, which creates demand for properties just like yours. And that's exactly what you can get top dollar for your home. My friend Bernie Gallerani and the Bernie Gallerani real estate team have proven marketing strategies to get your property in front of the most qualified buyers to get you top dollar for your home. Bernie Gallerani has more than 200 five-star Google reviews, so the proof is in the pudding, and he guarantees to sell your home in 30 days or less, or he's just going to buy it from you. So get started soon. All you got to do, Google Bernie Gallerani Real Estate or go to BernieGallerini.com, or just give him a call on his cell phone. Yeah, that's right, his cell phone, 615-428-2644. That's 615-428-2644.
RKW Brew by Scooters Coffee with locations in White House, Mount Juliet, Rivergate, Smyrna, and Brentwood. Download the Scooters Coffee mobile app today to order ahead and save $2 off your first mobile order. 615-737-1045. Will Levis, a topic of conversation at NFL owners' meetings. Titans president of football operations Chad Brinker telling Jim Wyatt there is a false report out there about the Titans having trade talks about Levis, saying, quote, "We have not contacted anybody and nobody has contacted us about Will Levis. I don't think anything has changed from the time somebody asked me about this a month ago." Chad Brinker adding, "For us heading into this camp, we want at least 3 quarterbacks, preferably 4, if we can." So like his time with the Kansas City Chiefs, Mike Bergonzi wants 4 QBs in camp, the way he's always done it and the way he'll do it here in Tennessee.
Fascinating. It was good to get clarity on them not having any conversations surrounding Will Levis, wherever that came from and how they got it. You are a liar is what they said, unless there's lying on both ends. Borgonzi's situation, this is me playing my role in how I think of this. Like Kansas City needing 4 quarterbacks because they have Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes doesn't practice every day. The offense has been the same for Patrick Mahomes every single day. So the idea of finding somebody that you can have on your roster to be cheaper, honestly, and also compete with your other backups is, I think, totally different from what the Tennessee Titans in this situation is. Now, again, Kayla has acknowledged this time and time again, we don't know how this group operates. We don't know how the camp structure is, how they cultivate a roster to make it through training camp either. I just never really see often 4 quarterbacks, specifically when you have the potential to go get a rookie quarterback as the number 1 overall pick. It is it's going to be, I think, just this merry-go-round event of them trying to throw you off as it pertains to what's next. Will Levis been in the conversation? That was a strong, I thought that was a strong vouch for Will Levis, more than I thought they would have given him. I will say, in my personal opinion, I would, if I was Will Levis, that sounds good publicly, and Chad has acknowledged he's been in a facility working out. He's been the best pro you want him to. But I feel like the writing's so much on the wall that Will Levis at some point in his camp will have to say, y'all, just let me go. Mm-hmm. It'd be cool to have him in training camp, but professionally, for a guy like him that may have a number 1 overall pick coming in, that puts him in a very bad spot.
Yeah, it is a little bit different in terms of what that would look like if they do, in fact, draft Cam Ward. You have a guy like Will Levis who clearly believes in himself still. We don't need to believe in him, but he clearly believes in himself. He said it at the end of the season, whether it be on this team or another team, he still believes he can be a starter. I don't know. I know he's put in work over the offseason. I'm not quite sure where he's at. It would be fascinating. And he went to Cali too to work.
He did?
Yeah.
Okay.
It'd be fascinating to hear from Will and to see like where he's in at this point. But that's not going to happen. What's interesting with the Titans is how they went about getting what could be 4 quarterbacks on this roster, because you didn't have to go sign those 2 guys that would probably still be on the street if it were to be kind of closer to training camp or closer to even, some of the workouts that they're going to be bringing guys in
like
for.
April 20th, I think.
Yeah, I think it was weird. It's almost like they muddied the water a bit on what their plan was by bringing in all these quarterbacks and signing them and then still having Will Levis on the roster. When it's all said and done, they can say all they want. They're going to give Will a chance to compete. But I think the long-term goal probably has to be for them guys, have him in training camp and then get value out of him to trade him.
Yep.
Right?
I agree.
Interesting. Mahomes over the last 6 seasons, speaking of Kansas City's quarterback philosophy, has played 12 preseason games. He's not just sat on the bench and they've played these other quarterbacks. Like, they genuinely just want to split things between 4 guys in Kansas City and the way they're going to do it here. It is very different from the way business has been done, no doubt about it. But you've got 90 players. Clearly, they would rather have 4 QBs as a part of that 90 versus maybe some other positions that we'll learn and see what they want and don't want. But part of the process, part of a new process for Mike Borgonzi and this organization.
It is. Back to the Levis conversation, though, like Chad speaks of him competing. Chad speaks of him showing that he could be a starter. And they've always kind of said that, too, is they got to make sure they look out after Will Levis in this situation. This is, I'll be honest with you, is commendable, is rare to be in these types of spots, too. But it means that Levis is a better person than I thought he would, because most guys in that situation, considering it's only one spot, that is only so many limited reps, would demand their way out. Now, again, he's handcuffed. There's nothing he can do. You're still on the roster. I mean, you're still under contract.
If you really are interested in still fielding offers for the number 1 overall pick, you can't just say we're done with Will Levis, because then teams are going to find out that you're not really interested in trading the number 1 overall pick.
I know.
Or the price isn't as high, right? So if they're still taking calls, then this is the way you have to proceed. And Mike Borgonzi says in this article from Jim Wyatt, we've had good conversations since I took the job, meaning him and Levis. Says he came in and we sat down and talked, so he's on the roster right now, and there's going to be competition in every room, quarterback included, but Will has been great.
And that's what I will say about this, front office that we, again, don't know exactly how they'll work together. What I will say, though, is since Mike Borgonzi has been brought in, he has said exactly the things that he has gone and done. And that is actually something I can get behind, right? As much as maybe I don't agree with all of it and some of the smoke screen that it could be, I will say this, it's been the same consistent messages on all these different things that they've, been asked about from the start when he arrived to now.
I wonder, is this the best case scenario for Cam Ward if he is drafted here for Will Levis to win the job, though? And I say that in a sense, I'll say, the mindset of being able to actually coach a quarterback and let him learn and let him sit may be better for him in a sense. As far as we spoke about, do you go get a veteran and let Cam sit behind him until a certain point? Like, Will Levis actually winning the starting job, because Callahan and Borgonzi and Chad said he's going to have the ability to compete. Is that the best thing for Cam?
I don't think so.
It might be a blow up in the city if that's the case.
Well, they'll get over it.
Could you imagine, though? You draft Cam Ward and Will wins the job.
Here's a guy we saw, not to cut you off or anything, but here's a guy in Ryan Tannehill that was, measured like Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes. Soon as Will Levis came in and had those 4 touchdowns, he was old news. So all it takes is, to the point I think Will's about to make, is if Will Levis does win the starting job and goes out and plays well, that at least gives you more time to allow Cam Ward, if he's drafted here, to grow a little bit more and see how it works.
I don't think you're sitting Cam behind Levis for any time at all, to be honest with you.
Man, it would be drama.
They're saying a lot of things right now. But they're giving us stuff publicly that they kind of have to say.
Oh, gosh,
I don't believe any of this is 100%, truth serum honesty. There are a lot of quarterbacks I'd be okay with Cam Ward learning from. Will Levis is not one of them. If we're trying to teach Cam Ward not to throw picks and not to play hero ball like he did at times at Miami last year, then Will Levis is not the guy for him to learn from. Like you don't have your kids learn from the troublemakers on how to listen in class. You want them to learn and sit next to the smart kids.
The only reason I'm bringing that up is looking at this Goal On TV article that we have right in front of us that we'll talk about tomorrow. Is right now you having a guy in J.J. McCarthy that's being pushed back time and time again, I feel like, in Minnesota. Like, they're still waiting on Aaron Rodgers. They went also and got Sam Darnold last year, and he had a season nobody predicted him having. And it seems to me there is some hesitation behind J.J. McCarthy.
There's some of it, yeah, for sure.
It's the only reason I bring up Levis. There'll be a ride.
I have no interest in letting Cam Ward sit behind
Until he's out of here,
Levis.
he has to be in our conversation. Unfortunately, this is just how it goes.
And that's where the only reason I'm having this conversation, because they've given us this.
Coming up, phone calls 615-737-1045 and Zakai Ziegler talking about what it means to be a Vol. We will reflect on the career of one of the greatest of all time to put on a Tennessee uniform next.
It's officially Truck Month at Two Rivers Ford, and hot off the press, Two Rivers Ford has just announced 2.9% financing for 72 months on all remaining 2024 F-150s, which is huge. That's a 2.9% APR for 72 months when you finance through Ford Credit. And Two Rivers Ford has got hundreds of trucks. They have over 200 F-150s in stock, the largest stock anywhere, and their non-commissioned sales team will make sure you find that exactly what you're looking for. And when it comes to the price too, man, Two Rivers Ford sell at invoice. It's simple also, and it's that great of a deal with no hassle, no haggling, no bait and switch whatsoever. So you'll get a great price on your new truck from Two Rivers Ford and take advantage of Truck Month savings now through March 31st. Yes, so get in right now at Truck Month at Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer.
It is 8:01. Good morning from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I'm Jackson Williams. The Final Four is set in the NCAA tournament. The Tennessee Vols men's basketball team had their season come to a close in the Elite Eight as they lost to the Houston Cougars 69-50 in Indianapolis. Houston joins Duke, Auburn, and Florida in the Final Four. All four teams playing on Saturday in San Antonio, with Florida and Auburn tipping off at 6:09 p.m. and Houston and Duke follow them at approximately 8:49. In NFL news, the Buffalo Bills and standout corner Christian Benford agreed to a 4-year, $76 million extension. The 2022 sixth-round pick out of Villanova started 15 games for Buffalo in 2024 and snagged 2 INTs. For your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, you need to visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Second half of the show and hour number 3 getting started on this Monday morning edition. RKW brewed up by Scooter's Coffee with locations in White House, Mount Juliet, Rivergate, Smyrna, and Brentwood. Download the Scooter's Coffee mobile app today to order ahead and save $2 off your first mobile order. 615-737-1045. Crew's all here. We will get to your complaints from the weekend. The Monday roast coming up here in just about 15 minutes. As Tennessee falls 69-50 to Houston yesterday, one step shy of their first Final Four once again. Guys, the 15 first half points, the lowest in tournament history by a team with a number 1 or 2 seed in any round of the tournament ever.
It was anemic as heck is what it was, man. It was, you can't even say it was embarrassing because the guys gave their effort. The performance of the results of what happened in that first half was, well, like, they were trying. Like, it just wasn't good enough. Shots weren't falling the way you needed to, and their ability to create just wasn't either. You had guys moving around the paint, around the three-point line, but not actually breaking Houston's defense down, and it showed throughout the course of that first half. I think Houston in the second half played a little bend, but don't break style of offense and allow certain things to happen, knowing that they could score at will and stop Tennessee if necessary, too.
It was like the tale of, like, two different teams in the first half. Like, you had the Houston side, which was playing defense out of their mind. They also were contributing offensively, and they weren't turning the ball over. It was very clean on their end. And then you had, Tennessee that couldn't, get their shots to fall. It just didn't. It didn't look good, and they dug themselves in a hole. And then you had that second half where I do feel like Tennessee had a little bit better of a second half even than Houston. I know Houston still was playing well and kept it within 10 the whole game, but they definitely put their effort into that second half in trying to will their way back. A couple of missed free throws, I think, didn't help at any point. But it was just that first half, guys, if you could just find a way to just not shoot that poorly. But it was tough to watch.
You find yourself in those types of games right there, man, to where, like you said, nothing is falling for you. And like, they're just stopping you at any chance they can possibly get. Your star players don't show up. That's just what it's going to be like. When the Vols started making a run and Gainey got on his run and Chaz did too, like, when you're that far behind, teams can just slow walk you to sleep. And I felt like that's what Houston did. Like, there's a lot of effort to get back even. And to also have more effort to take over the game, like, you need a lot of the crowds, you need a lot of, like, your bench, you need a lot of great coaching, and a lot of good fortune. None of that. That's a lot to ask in those moments.
And Houston to completely deflate, which they didn't do.
Which they did not do.
I remember saying earlier in the season, Tennessee's offense is so often jump shots or live ball turnovers in transition. And they fixed that. Jordan Gainey started driving more. Chaz Lanier started driving more. Zakai Ziegler became more aggressive in getting to the rim. And Tennessee also started rising up to the mean of who they are as three-point shooters. Zakai Ziegler was shooting way under his three-point average. He started to get hot. Chaz Lanier started to get hot again. Jordan Gainey started to get hot again. But against a defense as good as Houston's, that curveball Tennessee was able to throw at teams was taken away. And that was what was so difficult about this matchup is those long-limbed Houston Cougars inside made things really difficult for Tennessee to get to the rim. So they kind of regressed back to who they were in early February when all that they could do to score was shoot it over the defense or run in transition and try to turn them over. Houston didn't turn it over. They took care of the basketball very well against Tennessee's press, which they went to earlier than I think they do typically a lot of times because they understood, hey, shots aren't falling. We got to find another way to score before their defense gets set up. And it was a lot of jump shots. And in a game where you had to make a lot of jump shots to win, they just didn't do it. And sometimes it really is that simple. If you can't get to the rim, you can't rebound your own misses because Houston's one of the best rebounding teams in the country. It's really that easy to understand. Like, jump shots just got to fall, and they didn't. And that's part of it. That's the game of basketball. And that's why you've got to win in so many different ways to go on a 6-game winning streak and win a national championship.
Your team has to transform. It absolutely
You got to be able to win in the 80s
Yep.
and the 50s when you need to.
Yeah, you do. And then the things that usually go good for the Vols, Zakai being able to get in the paint real quick, did not work. They were blocking the shot. And not just that, like even the times where Chaz tried to get the ball off quick, like they got their hands on his ball to stuff him too. So when you have that deflated part of your game, it's just going to be a long day. And then, of course, Houston, they hit some shots the same way it looked like Walter Clayton Jr. did at times in the SEC tournament. It was that type of game for them, and it's a tip of the cap to them. I mean, the same amount of points that they led by is what they won by going into halftime. And again, good season, solid season. Didn't get to the Final Four the way you wanted it to, but again, that was a real good Houston team. Will said it earlier. Either one of these ones can win.
All four of them. Yep.
And I don't know if it's been that way for a while. Like last year, you knew UConn was strong again. This one,
Sure.
You roll the ball out and see what's going to happen.
It's almost like who you get on their best night in that situation. Like,
Seriously. And on top of it, each team has defense. Like, and that's where it becomes problematic for the Vols. Like, they tried to switch up a time or two as far as running it zone, well, at least slowing the ball down. The other part I think was detrimental to the Vols, too, was it's two teams that like to run half-court sets. When you can't get those long rebounds, Will, like you just said a second ago, and move and transition and get points off scores like that, Houston has the ability to slow it down, walk you into the paint, and get points too. And when yours can't do the exact same thing to return the favor,
then you're in trouble.
cooked.
Strong stuff yesterday from a now Tennessee legend, Zakai Ziegler, talking to the media post-game about what it meant to him to be a Tennessee Volunteer.
Well, coming in to Knoxville, I really didn't have any expectations of doing something like that. You know, all I did was ask Coach Barnes for a chance, and he gave it to me. And, you know, the mark that, I wouldn't even say the mark that I left on Tennessee, but the mark that they left on me and my family, you know, they changed our lives, really. And, you know, I'm just so thankful for each and every person that's a part of our nation. I'm so thankful for the coaches. So thankful for my teammates. So thankful for everybody that's a part of Tennessee as a whole. You know, accolades, I couldn't do anything like that without my teammates. Couldn't do anything like that without my coaches. You know, the mark that Tennessee has left on me is really crazy to just think about. You know, it's been the best 4 years of my life. Changed my life. And, you know, I feel like Knoxville is a place that I'll call home forever. So everything that I've done there, and everything that they've done for me has been none less than great. And I wouldn't even say ups and downs. Everything has just been up, really. Ball Nation, I love you guys, and I appreciate everything they've done for me and my family. Appreciate the coaches and appreciate my teammates.
That's Zakai Ziegler yesterday, post-game, after his final game as a Vol. I'll tell you what, guys, players like Zakai Ziegler are dying breeds. 4-year players who stick around, who develop. Rod Clark saying post-game, and the coaches talking about him, said he cared about everyone on this team, in this program, and was never a guy who was going to the table to renegotiate. Said there was never a conversation about him transferring and never a conversation about he doesn't want this or he's going to leave if he doesn't get this. There was never that. And that is going to become more and more rare in this day and age of college athletics.
This is what I miss about the old school college game.
Yeah.
Okay, whether it be in basketball or football or even any other sports. I'm a little old school at heart because, you know, I had both grandpas growing up for a long extended period of time. And so, you know, you get that kind of instilled in you when you have that. And you see a guy like that, like Will said, he's there for 4 years. Just as much as he gives to the university, he feels like he got back from the university and from the team. And you can go into the whole story about, you know, them losing their house in a fire up in New Jersey and moving his family to Knoxville. And clearly what I love about it is you see the two-way street between a school and the player. And you just don't see that anymore. And so you're right. It is a rare dying breed, unfortunately, but you all should feel so blessed to have a guy like that who you could cheer for 4 years, who loves the university just as much.
It is. It's hearing him almost tear up is definitely humbling to hear a guy like him that's always been straight faced and stoic about his expression, or how stoic about his feelings, I guess is what you would say. His last one just ended, and Savage brought that up a little while back. It was just like, that's the thing about March Madness. When it's done, it's just done. You throw your shoes over the power lines and you walk out. But hearing Zakai's breakdown of how he feels about the University of Tennessee, I think, in all actuality, I wish, to your point, like not just the guys that are stars, but how he described the University of Tennessee. And there's a lot of guys that have that feeling, but there's a big majority that doesn't. I wish that version of what his college career was is what every athlete could have. Because there is, Kayla, to your point, there's usually a one-way street with stuff sometimes. You don't get the opportunity to appreciate the university, and sometimes, no, most of the times, the fans don't appreciate the guys unless you're a Zakai-like, unless you're Eric Berry-like, unless you're Inky-like, unless you're Ron Slay-like. There's a lot of guys that go to your university, Kayla, USC, Georgia, Alabama, that don't get that feeling. And I think when you commit to a university, that's what you expect. I'm glad Zakai got an opportunity to get that, and I'm hoping through the ability to have a collective bargaining agreement. Because here's the thing, too. It was transactional with Zakai, too. Right? There was a lot that he gave and a lot that he got back.
Sure.
And I hope at some point all athletes get an opportunity to feel like that when they throw their cleats over the power lines of their basketball shoes.
It's well said. No doubt about it. Special player. Hate to see him and Jemai Meshack go out that way. And same for all those seniors, but especially those two who were at Tennessee for so long. And, Chaz Lanier, who had such a great season. And again, you talk about breaking Chris Lofton's record. A record we thought was untouchable in terms of threes in a season. Hate that it had to end the way that it did, but very fun for those guys. They set the culture in a big way. So,
big time.
Good
Big
stuff.
shoes to fill.
No doubt. 615-737-1045. We'll start with Marcus on the other side. Been waiting to talk about some NFL stuff, and we give you the number because we invite your participation for the Monday roast. Who do you want to roast in sports and life, on air, off air, whatever you want to take it? You can take it with us. 615-737-1045 coming up. Footballing here with my guy Trey Hartsook, Dickens Turf and Landscape Supply. Go where the pros go to take care of your lawn and have the best lawn in the neighborhood this time of year. Trey, all times of year, you guys, you have the best advice. We're talking turf, we're talking pre-emergence, anything that people need. You guys have the best advice of the market for them.
Absolutely, Will. I'll tell you, man, now is such a fun time of year because when the sun starts popping out, the temperature starts rising. You start seeing that turf that has been in a dormancy state or didn't look as good throughout the winter. So important right now that you come on down to Dickens Turf Turf and Landscape Supply and get that first round of pre-emergent. So this summer throughout the season, keep that grassy weed germination down and make sure that we can keep our yard under control, because we know our ultimate goal is to make sure that we have lush green grass with no weeds, and we can do that at Dickens Turf and Landscape Supply. It doesn't matter whether you have 0.3 of an acre or 33 acres. We'd love to talk to you about it. Conveniently located all over Middle Tennessee. Got locations in Nashville, Hendersonville, Murfreesboro, Bellevue, Brentwood, Lamar, Mount Juliet, and Franklin. If you can't get a hold of us, check us out online, DickensSupply.com.
RKW 1045, The Zone is brewed by Scooters Coffee with locations in White House, Mount Juliet, Rivergate, Smyrna, and Brentwood. Download the Scooters Coffee mobile app today to order ahead and save $2 off your first mobile order. Who deserves to be roasted from the weekend other than my voice, which got totally roasted yesterday in Indianapolis? It is time for the Monday Roast. It is the Monday Roast on RKW. Who deserves to be roasted in sports, in life, in your world, or any others from the weekend? Kayla, you weren't here for this last week, so you lead us off this morning.
Well, I would say the Atlanta Braves, but, that's going to hit a hard spot with many people.
Oh, 4 out of 162. Ain't even worried.
Braves fans, including my husband, was not happy
last
to
time
see
they went
them
0-4,
get
they won the
swept.
World Series. So
yeah, just you never want to see you get
going according to
swept
plan
over the first
right.
weekend. So I am more so than anything, a pizza fan going out and getting pizza, right? Whether that be wherever you go get your pizza, people have their favorite spots. But sometimes you just need a quick fix and you hop by the grocery store and you get a frozen pizza. So my go-to for many years now, probably 6-7+ years, has been Newman's Own. I feel like they do a nice, light, thin crust. It tastes good. Yeah. It only takes 12 minutes to heat up. But over the last couple of years, I have seen a decrease in size of this pizza. And we opened the pizza up this weekend because, again, it was one of those situations where we just had to make a quick decision. And I swear that thing shrunk by like several inches in terms of the pizza. Yes, the pizza.
Okay.
And I went even on Reddit because I was like, is anybody else experiencing this? Like that this Newman's Own pizza is shrinking in size, but you're paying the same amount, if not more, for your pizza. And in fact, people are on here, and we've got one guy that says, I've been buying these pizzas for 10+ years, and he says they're getting smaller and smaller. And the guy even said, my hands are 7.5 inches, by the way, and it's barely bigger than his hand. Oh, I mean, shame on me for keeping the Newman's, name alive in my kitchen, but it is really good. But at some point, I feel like we're going to have to move on because Newman's Own, you're not that guy. You're shrinking your pizzas.
Wow. A little shrinkflation going on, huh, Kayla? Lord.
Absolutely.
Tough.
Yeah, that's pretty bad right there. That's, boom,
That's right.
roast it.
Roast it. Oh, yeah, roast it. Sorry, you're not that guy. I'm not.
You're not that
used
guy
to
is
that
no longer
change.
the segment. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Boom, roast
You're
it.
not that
Excuse
segment.
me.
Yes. I got a few. I'm going to be lying.
Let me get my one out of the way.
Go ahead,
then.
get your one out the way.
Yesterday, you may have seen this on Twitter after Tennessee's loss to Houston. Diamond Vols on Twitter is a Tennessee baseball account. And they tweet at 2:05 p.m., whoever this person is. If you got emotionally invested in Tennessee basketball, not sure what to tell you. This was expected. A wise man once said, you're either a Vol or you're not. That man is the coach of the Diamond Vols, Tony Vitello, who'd probably be pretty disgusted with a tweet like this. And here's my thing. Gatekeeping fandom, especially even within your own fan base, is a miserable way to live. Get emotionally invested. Buy tickets. Go to games. Get excited. Talk trash. Win. Lose. Enjoy life. I cannot stand people like this who take this opinion and encourage you to just be numb to everything. Because you know what happens when you do that? When you kick the butt of your biggest rival in the Sweet 16, you don't get to fully enjoy that either because, I wasn't emotionally invested. No, emotionally invest. Lose games. Go to games and lose your voice and have to drive back 4 hours afterwards. Life is about experiences and about getting invested and sometimes getting hurt. I would rather get invested and lose than be numb and just not care about anything and never get to experience the highs in life. Diamond Vols on Twitter. Roasted.
Boom.
Dang.
Stupid. Completely stupid. And you should always be able to call out people in your own fan base as well. Yeah. That one I will absolutely call out. That is a ridiculous thing to say. Ridiculous thing to say.
I'm with that one. I'm with you on that one. Even though we all struggle with losing, but like if that's your team, you ride.
You're either a Vol or you're not.
100%. This next one, my morning roast, man, goes to a bunch of people in defense of some folks that don't need it and honestly don't ever get defended. Okay, the New York Yankees. I'm defending you today.
Whoa!
Nice.
I'm defending you today.
Wow.
I know where this is going.
Yeah,
You got your torpedo bats ordered yet?
Yeah, right.
Which is where I'm going to boom roast a lot of folks today. So the Yankees started off, well, they got noticed because they went on a 20-9. Well, they ended up beating the Milwaukee Brewers 20-9.
Roasted
9
them.
home runs in one game. And everybody's looking at their players and trying to figure out what in the world is going on. Aaron Judge ended up having, I think, 3 in one game.
And he missed the fourth one by a couple feet, too.
He missed the fourth. one. My bad. I'm choking up over this one, man. But not only just that, 9 home runs in the game total for them in a 20-9 win against the Brewers. They weren't done. They hit 4 in the game before, and they hit 2 yesterday. 15 home runs over the weekend, and the Yankees are cheating. You guys suck. You always do this same thing. 36 runs in the 3-game series, by the way, total for the New York Yankees. And come to find out, they have a literal, from what they're reporting, physicists that they hired to figure out their players' deficiencies. Their players' deficiencies they were hitting right on the sticker. Jazz Chisholm being one of those guys because he gets jammed all the time. If you know baseball, the ball's going to ball's going to hit a little bit more down the barrel, well, away from the barrel. So they moved the weight of the baseball bat back so that they're now hitting a sweet spot. MLB has actually come out and said, no problem.
No problem.
This bat is legal. So for all the folks that hated on the New York Yankees this past weekend that may now also be benefactors of this torpedo bat, boom, roasted.
Yeah, the only rule MLB has is how big the barrel can be. There is no MLB rule that states where the barrel goes.
Right.
So you can put the biggest part of the barrel further down the bat if you have players who are hitting further down the bat. Buster Olney reported on Sunday Night Baseball last night, the Braves have already ordered the torpedo bats themselves as well.
They asked Manny
every
Machado
team is
about
going to
it.
do this.
Like during the field interview, they were like, yeah, y'all want some of those torpedo bats? You guys got them yet? It's like, get them in the mail.
Yeah, Drake Baldwin, Braves catcher, said he's used them in the fall league before. Not even a new thing that just the Yankees are doing.
It's not.
Right.
They just hit 9 home runs in a game and 20 runs. Now everybody's speaking about it.
Just imagine if Tony Vitello and Tennessee get metal torpedo bats.
Oh, Lord. Hey,
Jeez.
they don't call bats
The
hot
number
for
one
no
team in
reason.
college baseball is about to be even better.
Yeah, they don't call them hot for no reason.
Sweep on South Carolina over the weekend.
If I'm not mistaken, there was another player that played in one yesterday. I'm trying to effort that also. I think the Cubs had a player that was using one yesterday too. So they've already gotten to it as it pertains to them getting those bats shipped out to them.
I'd get one.
I do think, being real with you, this could also help, air quotation marks, save baseball too. If there is more offense, it's going to suck for the pitchers. But if you're looking for this type of explosion of offense for
100%.
MLB, very beneficial.
Yeah, I think it's a potential really big win for the league.
That's what
to be
I'm
honest
saying.
with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dylan said that in our chat too. He says it's way more entertaining.
It's way more entertaining. Like, it sucks.
That's why the steroid era was so interesting.
Yeah.
Exactly. If you
You
get
can
this
hate on
without
it, but
and that's the
they
thing
love
too.
it.
Like with the pitchers pitching what they are right now, the speeds and the different variations of pitches that they have. This is where you combat that if you are a hitter. It is smart.
That. I see what you did there.
You see what I'm saying? I'm a poet and didn't even know. I wasn't even
You
trying
literally
right
didn't
there.
even know it.
I did not know it. Man.
Yeah.
I got another one too if you
Go.
guys are with it.
Hit me.
This one real quick one too. Y'all gonna hate me. So I did some hater defensive work right there. This is also, I'm gonna be labeled as a hater in general. But
Okay.
you people, you folks.
Oh.
You
I'm a
people.
pet lover myself. But I believe in safe driving habits, okay? From time to time, I get you might have to send a text or two, which you should not be doing in
Right.
general too. But I'm going to be honest with y'all. When I see folks driving down the road and they have this under 15-pound animal sitting in their lap while they're driving, stop.
It takes a special kind of animal to not distract you if it's sitting in your lap while you're
I
driving.
don't know how people do. I mean, I've
don't-
never had a small.
I don't trust my
Dog
dog
like
enough
that,
to put
but-
him in the front seat. Well, he can't fit, okay?
Yeah.
I was going to say, that'd
No.
be tough.
Zeus can't fit in the front seat, but you know how many times I've seen people driving with one hand, the dog been held in the
Sure.
left with their doggone dog head hanging out the window, and you trying to manage that. People like texting and driving is a thing. We should stop texting and petting, okay?
Yeah.
Like, end it, man. Like, we gotta, I don't know why that gets me, but
It's very interesting.
it's for the people that do that, stop, okay? And I just want to boom roast you real quick, all right? Just pets
the same thing as
driving
text
in the
and
driver's
drive.
seat. I'm not into that one.
Text drive.
Another Monday roast for you goes to Duke, which has nothing to do with their basketball program. But did you guys see their response to The White Lotus this season?
Did not.
So Jason Isaac's character in The White Lotus, which was great last night, been great the last 2 weeks, by the way, with the finale coming up next week, is a Duke grad who wears a Duke T-shirt all the time. Bit of a troubled character, I will say,
To say
and
the
making
least.
some mistakes, which I won't go into and won't, many of you probably haven't watched all of it, whatever. But a character that is maybe not the most upstanding Duke Blue Devil citizen. And Duke is not happy about it. Not being portrayed the correct way. The university's vice president for communications, marketing, and public affairs says the Blue Devils do not want to be associated with White Lotus, saying, quote, Duke appreciates artistic expression and creative storytelling, but characters prominently wearing apparel bearing Duke's federally registered trademarks creates confusion and mistakenly suggests an endorsement or affiliation where none exists. You've actually confirmed the stereotype just by making this comment, Duke.
Like,
Stuck up,
come on.
holier than thou kind of mentality. Like that, you're making it worse.
That is
Pretty bad.
crazy to me. It's a fictional show.
Yeah, it's
and
right.
at that, if you're watching it, you know just how fictional that White Lotus franchise is. And so, yeah, he's sporting Duke a lot in that, but they're portraying like the character. And again, it's fictional. Yeah, maybe some people that don't get it, they're like, oh, Duke. But Duke, you're Duke.
Yeah.
You are
seriously.
Duke.
Yeah,
Like,
seriously.
come on now.
That is, I didn't realize that they made a
Are
rebuttal.
you
I
watching
hadn't
White
seen
Lotus?
White
You've got to
no.
see. You guys have
That
got to
or
watch
what's
it.
It's fine. It's not been
I like
amazing this season, but it's been good. I mean, I don't know. It's not been bad.
That family is the characters are awesome.
Family from North Carolina. Yeah,
It's
Parker Posey's
amazing.
Carolina accent is fantastic.
Is that-
She's
I-
so
It's
good.
really funny.
Is which one should I start first? Like Euphoria or White Lotus?
I think you'd like White Lotus.
I like
yeah,
White Lotus.
Euphoria, that's super dark.
It's dark,
Which is fine.
I didn't realize.
Well, you
that.
got to do Severance before you do anything else.
Severance. Yeah, Severance.
You got to do
is
both
another
seasons of
one.
Severance.
Yeah, I did Succession. I'm also now on Righteous Gemstones.
Oh yeah, that's so funny.
I have not done
It's
that
so
one.
bad right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is, I don't
The
know
new
if you want to
season
do
you're-
that one.
you're
I'll be
watching?
honest.
No, I'm good.
Yeah, we're watching.
It's
the
right
new
after
season,
White
too.
Lotus.
I don't think that one's for me.
Yeah. By the way, another one too that just needs to stop. This LeBron James versus everybody, or everybody versus LeBron James stuff that's going
Oh,
on.
my goodness.
I'm not understanding. I am fully not understanding why this
Whose
is
side
a
are you
part
not
of the
understanding?
Both of them.
I don't really
like.
get
I
it
get
either.
LeBron's defense of his son, but I feel like there is Winehorse is another guy
Brian
that's
Windhorst.
after
Brian Windhorst,
Windhorst
yeah.
is another one that's after LeBron too, and
Well,
Stephen A. And
I don't think that one's super fair because LeBron James claimed that Brian Windhorst thought that they were best friends, and which Brian Windhorst has never claimed. And LeBron loves lying in the media; he does it all the time. There is so much smoke and noise. I'm so glad we host a local radio show and not a national one, because I would be so bored of talking about LeBron James every day. The discourse
People
around
heard
him
the,
as a person
AI songs.
is so annoying. Oh yeah,
what's that?
oh yeah, the AI songs.
There's AI songs also.
Yeah, it's a whole corner. Of
See,
the
I
internet.
chose not to dive deep into this conversation just because it's dumb just to begin with. But
Exactly.
I subscribe to Mike Tirico as of late. Mike Tirico, he had a comment this past weekend. It was just I have a son. I get where LeBron comes from.
Michael Wilbon.
Michael Wilbon. My bad. Michael Wilbon. He was just well, I got a son. I've been in a situation, so I don't blame LeBron. He's like, but as far as us speaking about his kid and him all the time, he was like, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander deserves more airtime than anybody they're speaking of right now. And that's right. This guy was almost MVP last year. And here we are speaking about a guy and LeBron James with his son that barely plays any minutes like that. It is by far the weirdest form of sports entertainment I feel like we've ever had to endure. And if they want to have the soap opera of the NBA, to me, to put more eyes on
Maybe
it,
that's a thing.
it's dumb.
Maybe it's
it
a
makes
thing.
me, who enjoys basketball, want to run away from it because you guys are not speaking about the actual game. I feel like during football season, they elevate the actual play. We're elevating storylines and drama with basketball right now, and maybe it's before the playoffs tip off in the NBA, but this is one of those things that takes away from it. Just seems whiny. And I pretty much just got another morning
But
roast
we're
by
talking
saying
about
that.
it.
Yeah,
We're talking
but
about it.
It's whiny.
I
But
know. I'm not agreeing
us
with
talking
it.
about it is cool. Us
Right.
viewing it would be much better for them, and that's the issue that they're running into right now by having these superstar analysts run with this narrative.
And it's all in house too. Like most of it is at ESPN.
Nuts.
Because it's Pat McAfee, it's LeBron there, and then Stephen A. Smith. Like it's
Tiring.
Brian Windhorst. Like it's crazy.
I'm so glad we're in Nashville and don't have to break down Stephen A. Smith versus LeBron James more than this about 2-minute conversation.
Exactly.
It makes me dumber.
Tiring is what that is, man. I hate that for all parties involved, man. Specifically, Bronny James. He didn't ask for that.
615-737-1045 if you want to roast anyone in sports or in your life for the Monday roast this morning. Coming up, 2 comments on injured Titans. One that is scheduled to be back for training camp and one who is not, from Brian Callahan this morning. Coming up.
It's Ramon Foster for Secure Lawn. Good people, man. Secure Lawn is only worried about providing you a prime service. What does this mean, man? It means whenever they come out to your house, their team members will be properly trained and prepared to make sure that you have the best lawn in the neighborhood. No weeds, no crabgrass, none of that foolishness that wants to get inside of your grass and just have those brown spots everywhere. No, absolutely do not want to deal with that. They're also right now celebrating serving Middle Tennessee for 20 years. Lawns is what they do, and they are good at it, too. Simply put, if you need your trees trimmed, shrubs planted, you need to call somewhere else, man, because Secure Lawn, they don't do all of that. But if you want your grass looking like something out of a magazine, if you need lawn fertilizer, weed control, you need to call Secure Lawn. They're family owned and operated and local, man. They're punctual. They have a quick response time. They don't make you sign any kind of contracts. In fact, if you are unhappy with your service, they will do everything to make it right or simply give your money back on that last treatment. This is unheard of. So if you're trying to get your lawn right, green, thick, the way I have mine because of Secure Lawn, reach out to the company I trust at 615-893-8455 or go to securelawn.com.
RKW brewed by Scooters Coffee on 104.5 The Zone. Wrapping up hour number 3. Richard Hendricks of SEC Network going to join us this morning in a half hour. Coming up at 9:20, talking some SEC hoops. Do we want bad injury news or good injury news first, guys?
For SEC hoops?
No, for the Tennessee Titans.
Good.
Yeah.
Let's start with
L'Jarius Sneed is expected to be back for training camp.
There we go.
That's a dub.
That
We'll
is very
take
good
that.
news.
Let's say by training camp.
Yes.
So let's
Very
not
good
even ask question about OTAs, mini camp. What is this practice schedule like?
Right.
Get us to training camp is what we want.
The quote from Brian Callahan at owners' meetings this morning said Sneed is coming along well and will likely be ready for camp. He has been in the building and eager to prove he's still one of the best corners in the game and that last year wasn't the norm. Callahan was unsure whether or not he is running yet.
Okay. I'll take that. If he's running yet, I mean, most times veterans don't start running until like April anyway, to just be completely honest with you. I think a lot of guys when in their younger years, they start too early.
Tomorrow's April.
Tomorrow is April. I know, April 1st. April Fool's tomorrow. We got to be careful tomorrow.
Dang, Will. I mean, geez, you're right. It's April.
Yeah, it is a March 31st.
I should have been more specific when they get to OTAs, but hey, it is what it is
Sure.
at this point. You're right, Will. 4 months. Heck,
Is
at this
OTAs
point.
May?
OTAs is May. Yes, it is. Off-season program usually opens up at around like April 20th, or maybe a week or two before then. And that's just on the field stuff. You can start just incorporating more as you go week by week is how it breaks down. OTAs, I think it's May.
April.
Late April?
Depends on the team.
Okay, it depends on the team.
Yeah.
Like around draft time then.
Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes it is April. Sometimes it's May. I mean, last season, the Atlanta Falcons had their first day April 2nd.
April 2nd?
Yeah.
I can't keep up anymore with
new
the
coach?
dates.
Yep.
Yeah, new coach, I think, is why they got an opportunity to start early.
Well, that's good news, though, because you didn't have him really to start the season much, right? So just to have him in training camp's huge, if that is the case.
Yep.
So
You're right on new coach stuff. So this season, in terms of important dates for the NFL, of course, league meetings going on today. Those will end April 2nd in Palm Beach, down in Florida. Clubs that hired a head coach after the 2024 regular season may begin off-season workout programs April 7th. And the clubs with returning head coaches can begin off-season workout programs April 21st.
That's
so
what it was.
we still have 3 weeks before the Titans are allowed to begin their off-season work.
Yep.
Know
Because
how I
Brian
knew
got
that?
an early start last year.
They always start the off-season program off 420.
There it is.
There it is.
Okay.
Easy date to
Fair
remember.
enough.
It is, which is why I don't understand how guys fail those.
They failed drug tests? Yeah, fair enough.
No, for
Facts.
real.
Traylon Burks will not be ready for training camp, but potentially for the start of the season, according to Titans head coach Brian Callahan in Palm Beach this morning.
I don't care. In the nicest way. And again, I like Traylon Burks, the guy. I truly do. Unfortunately, Traylon Burks, the player, has been a disappointment. And most of that has been because of injury, but also just inconsistency when he is even out there, which is not a lot. At this point, guys, like if you're forgetting he's on your roster, which by the way, I'll admit I've
Blocked out your mind a
forgotten,
little bit. Yeah.
it's probably not a good thing. And if he can't be in training camp and get some work with an ACL injury back into the groove, I just see him coming back this year, even if he's on the team, coming back from an ACL injury, the mentality part of it,
Yeah.
I think it's going to be tough. I do.
It can be, and it's all about his rehab too, for the most part, right? Like, can he get past that hurdle of hearing that first pop that I hear guys have with that ACL, like taking that first hit? Will he have a gait in his run? Like, there's a lot of that type of stuff that plays a part into his production. Like, how comfortable is he with his new leg, essentially, is where he's going to have to be at. And just all in all, it's just disheartening. Like, we talk about this team. What did he do with the first-round pick? Okay, quarterback seems to be very obvious. And then we start speaking about second-round pick, wide receiver edge. Like, and do you want to pair up do you want to pair Cam Ward or Will Levis at this point with a young wide receiver? Like, and that sucks because you do have Traylon Burks in house
I know,
still,
he's
who's
a
a former
first-round
first rounder. And I think we still have to use that because somebody inside of this franchise evaluated him as a bona fide first-round draft pick. And I don't know what his offensive scheme needs to look like or what needs to happen as far as his involvement with the offense. But he wasn't picked there for no reason. At what point do you get some more production out of him? Like we spoke last year, if I'm not mistaken, like the amount of yards we expected him to get with Calvin Ridley and Tyler Boyd being here, I think we all said, well, we about 500.
Yep.
500. I think I might have gone up a little bit higher. Yeah, yeah.
That's pretty sad for a former first-round pick.
Right.
Who also started late in the process. This was what Kayla was speaking about when we were on the break. I feel like you have Traylon, but the coaches gave the first stab to him instead of NWI.
Which I criticized at the time.
And stood with it for quite a long time.
Yep.
It wasn't just like a few games. Like they stood stand on like giving Traylon a lot more reps.
And then he's a first rounder to a
Right.
coach that evaluated him potentially as a first rounder too. So those mistakes are making. I actually give more grace to that. But over the course of the season, when he's not making it for you, make it happen for you. I mean, go to your other option. That's why I was speaking about the Levis situation. I'm shocked that they're this patient with him and continue to speak that high, which is a good thing. Staff seems to be fair so far.
Another comment from Brian Callahan this morning that we've also told you was going to happen. They don't need NWI because they have NWI at home.
Yep.
He says Bryce Oliver is capable of taking the Nick Westbrook-Akine role.
Mm-hmm. He's not wrong, and he's still got a lot of work to do. But I will say, being in that locker room last year, even hearing his teammates talk about him the way they did, like they're believers in Bryce Oliver. And the way that they were able to start utilizing him on special teams, like being a wide receiver 4 is different than just a special teams player. I get that. I do think he has the tools and the mindset to get there. Again, you're not asking him to be a 2, even a 3, but if he can be that 4 guy for you, I do truly feel like he can be that guy, guys, in Bryce Oliver.
It's fascinating with Bryce Oliver, though, because here's the thing that sucks for him. Albeit he may be great inside that locker room and as a player, too, but as far as this fan base and as far as his peers that he's going to have to face, like his respect factor, I think is going to be a whole lot lower until he proves that he's worthy of those opportunities to make those plays. And then in those moments, too, like I think he got in, later last year, as it pertains to his reps and stuff, like at what point at this point as your number 2, do you start giving him a bigger volume of like passes throughout the course of the game? Like, is he wide receiver 2 at this point? And do you feel comfortable with that also?
Not at this point.
I mean, right now, Van Jefferson on the depth chart is wide receiver 2.
I'm sorry.
It's March 31st. It's March 31st.
Yeah, for sure.
That's not going to continue to happen.
Facts.
They will have another wide receiver who's ahead of those two guys in the depth chart.
A couple more.
What's that?
I think they need a couple more.
So, I was talking about this with 3HL the other day at Fog Street Lawn Club. Like, if this is really a rebuild, it doesn't matter what position you need for the 2025 Titans with all these, take the best player. I don't care what positions they draft. Now, for the 2025 Titans, sure. They need a wide receiver. They probably need 2 of them. They need an edge rusher. And I get that sometimes your long-term goals and your short-term goals match up. Mm-hmm. They need a good, cheap pass catcher that's going to be here for their young quarterback for the duration of that rookie contract in a perfect world. However, if you've got a bunch of receivers slotted at 60, 70, 80 on your board, you're sitting there at 35. You don't just have to take a receiver slotted 60, 70, 80. Maybe you take the corner. Maybe you take Max Hairston. Maybe you take, one of these safeties. Maybe you go with, a defensive tackle. To me, if you're in a full rebuild and you just need good football players, I don't care where those good football players play. I just want good football players at this point.
Well, see, that's what clouds the conversation with me behind the quarterback thing. You said you want the best. He's the best quarterback in his 2 drafts.
That's what I've been saying for months. Just because you need a quarterback doesn't mean you always go take the quarterback, because what if you think the quarterback stinks?
Who's the consensus number 1 prospect? Prospect, not player, not quarterback in this draft. The number 1 prospect.
Travis Hunter and Abdul Carter.
Yeah, those are the 2.
1A, 1B.
Those are the 2.
I'd say the foot down for Carter has made him 1B, and Hunter's probably 1A at this point.
Even though he's not getting, I don't think, as much love as he should.
Not.
Travis Hunter?
No.
I don't think he is in this market. I think he is nationally.
He's there. He's nationally. You think
I just
so?
think we're so quarterback focused in this market that we're not talking about him as much.
They're in a rough spot to make this pick.
To say the least, right?
Yeah, they're in a rough spot to make this pick at 1.
615-737-1045. More comments to react to from Brian Callahan at NFL owners meetings. Rick Barnes talking about his team. We can get to that audio as well coming up next before Richard Hendricks of SEC Network stops by at 9:20. All that and more on the other side next.
It's Ramon Foster for Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. Good people, man. Hiller has been in business since 1990. Our family owned and operated. I've told you about their owner, man, Jimmy Hiller, man. He's recently named one of the most admired CEOs. And it's because how he truly cares for his team and his clients, not just him, the entire company, man. Hiller stands behind their work on every single job, man, and they take care of the customer also every time. The slogan is, happy you'll be, the service is free. If a customer isn't pleased with the work performed, they will make it right, man. They always send their professional, experienced, trustworthy technicians to come into your home and they leave it better and cleaner than they found it. Best thing I like about them is their true transparency pricing. What this means is this: every part of the job is lined up front, all right? So homeowners can easily understand what they're paying for and the why. No hidden fees, no added costs, no surprises when you get your bill. To learn more, book with the company that I trust. Simply visit happyhiller.com.
It is 9:01. Good morning from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I'm Jackson Williams. In NFL news, the Buffalo Bills and standout corner Christian Benford agreed to a 4-year, $76 million extension. The 2022 sixth-round pick out of Villanova started 15 games for Buffalo in 2024 and snagged 2 interceptions. The number 1 ranked Tennessee Vols baseball team won their 3rd SEC series in as many tries, sweeping the South Carolina Gamecocks by scores of 11-7, 7-5, and 7-2, respectively. The Vols take on Tennessee Tech tomorrow for a midweek matchup before hosting Texas A&M this weekend for a rematch of last year's College World Series finals. For our foundation repair and waterproofing needs, you need to visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
RKW 104.5 The Zone, brewed by Scooters Coffee. As we continue into hour number 4, 615-737-1045. Scooters Coffee everywhere around Middle Tennessee. Whether you are in White House, Mount Juliet, Rivergate, Smyrna, and Brentwood, make sure you download the Scooters Coffee mobile app today to order ahead and save $2 off your first mobile order. We heard the audio from Ian Rappaport earlier this morning. And we have read Brian Callahan at NFL owners meetings in Palm Beach saying no decision has been made. There is not a front runner for the number 1 overall pick. Do you believe that in that building there is not a front runner?
Do I believe? No, I don't believe him at all, to be quite honest with you. I think it's fair that they go through the process of evaluating and forever staying in the hunt. I think it was you, Will, that brought it up earlier. Like, if they slight one of these prospects over one or the other, then guys are finicky like that. Not saying that they'd act spoiled or they'd act like very, just adverse in how they viewed you as an organization, but you do have to be open to what it is. You never know. Coach Callahan may like one prospect. Chad may like another, and heck, Mike Berganzi might like somebody else. And at some point in time, they're going to have to sit in the room. He gave us the timeline, or gave Teron Davenport a timeline of 2 weeks. They'll know where they want to go. That's the way you got to treat this situation is. At this point, I can call him a liar all I want to. I think the decision has been made for the most part, specifically when Mike Berganzi said that they had 4 quarterbacks in Kansas City too. So I just wonder how long they'll have for and what the competition will look like in training camp too. I'm interested. I'm not seeking out chaos when it comes to this. But Will Levis been asked the same questions as Cam Ward here. It's going to be real funny, man. I do think there's going to be interesting to see how he approaches it if they do select Cam Ward.
I think if they haven't made their decision and they don't know who truly their number 1 pick is, that's an issue. That's the thing. Like, that's why I'm more so leaning towards, I think they do know what it is, because if they don't and they're saying, oh, well, we'll know more so in 2 weeks, according to Callahan, who said that today. Okay, what are you going to find out in 2 weeks that you haven't found out about the people already, the prospects already, that you should know by now if that guy is truly your quarterback or your first round pick? So that's what is more concerning. If they don't really know like who that is yet, then that's a problem. That's what makes me feel like they do, because God, if that's not the case, we're in for a long ride.
Well, I think it also does to that point too, as far as them not knowing. These coaches get face-to-face now, too, at these owner meetings. I think we heard a little bit of conversation coming out of Combine when they have these opportunities to see each other and say, hey, I may think about doing this with one of your players. That may be the only thing, like the business side of trading back. If somebody comes to them at the owner meetings or whatever the case may be, we're not sure Ms. Amy's involvement in it. Also, is she ready to select a quarterback? We have to have that conversation, too, as far as the franchise is concerned. So it's all I would say is fair. And for guys that are still in competition, as far as Will Levis is concerned, that's all he can really ask. So I will say I'd ask for clarity by the time April 20th come around, though.
Yeah, I would think
you have to, for his sake.
You mean Will Levis asked for clarity?
Yes.
Yeah, I think there could be internal clarity. That maybe there already is.
There could be
To be
that
honest with you,
conversation.
we don't know.
Yeah.
He's not talking, Levis.
Right.
He's golfing at the NFLPA golf tournament last week at Mayakoba.
Yeah, looked like fun.
Golfing, not talking.
Golfing, not talking is probably
Good
what
way
I
to be.
prefer right now.
That's how I am when I get off this show. I'm golfing and not talking.
Not today, though. It's pretty gross
I
out
can
there.
go inside.
I'll go inside the simulator. Yeah, yes, indeed. Are those things actually necessary or are they kind of overrated? They good? The
Oh, I love it.
You do? Okay.
It's helped me so much. I've gotten so much better. I have no choice to. I play all the time. It'd be hard for me to get worse just because I practice a lot.
You need to get one in your house.
I need a lot of practice because I'm not very
You see
good.
his holes in the ceiling, Kayla. You have so many holes in the ceiling around my
That's a
You
house.
have
big
to proof
investment.
that
Oh,
room,
my
right?
God.
Big investment.
Yeah, they're expensive.
Brian Callahan this morning saying it is a short list at number 1 for sure. It's all the guys that I think are worthy of it between Travis Hunter, Shador Sanders, Cam Ward, and Abdul Carter. Those are the most elite players in the draft.
I don't even think they went to Travis Hunter's pro day.
Colorado's
Hasn't happened yet.
That's
Oh, it hasn't happened yet. Okay.
so he's
Colorado's is this week, I believe, April 4th.
Okay.
They did mention Brian Callahan and Titans Brass as well. They will have a contingent at Colorado Pro Day to see both Shador and Travis. Which again, that's why it's not. It doesn't worry me that they don't have the process done yet. They're still got to go to other pro days.
I want to see what's
play the game.
The conversation behind how Shador throws. It was fascinating too. I was not Fowler's throw. It was interesting listening to this past weekend. Deion Sanders. A lot of people speaking about his tone that he had as far as Shador being drafted, and it was at first, well, he don't want him to go this city, that city, or this team. And now the conversation has been, well, whoever chooses my son is going to prove everybody wrong. But it was also interesting to where Deion apparently ended up calling a franchise. They didn't say which one that had said Shador didn't interview well, and he seemed cocky and stuff like that. He apparently found the quarterback coach that said it, called him, and addressed it. And here's the thing. The head coach of whichever team it was denied it, claimed that his guy didn't say that. But that is to that point of like Deion's involvement. Which, again, if somebody's slandering a prospect name, agents do call in those situations, too. It's just in this one, it was Deion calling. I think the reporting was Josina Anderson, if I'm not mistaken, is where the comments were said at first. And I'm guessing Deion's got a relationship with Josina that said, who was your guy that said this, and called the head coach.
I wish they just come out and say it, that Cam Ward's their guy. It worries me a little bit that they don't love him. The fact that they haven't totally landed on him yet. But interesting that the process is going to continue, and clearly they feel like I guess, just need to go through a process to learn how to work together. I mean, that is one of the only reasons I can see why you would continue operating in this manner is like, hey, this is our first time evaluating prospects together, asking questions together, learning how to work with each other within this building, so we're not going to cut any corners within that process, even though I think they know who they're really taking.
I do wonder what did they learn when they went into, what was it, dark February that they called it, whenever they go into scout mode and everything? Was it just an accumulation of information they were gathering from like scouts and tape? Or did they, at that point, before going to the combine, make decisions on what they were looking for and the how? Because if you tell most people's spouses in the industry, hey, for 3 weeks you won't see me, and I'll be at the facility from 6 a.m. to 10 o'clock at night, like I'd expect some hard answers out of that. And it seems to me, with what they've been saying as of late, they have some answers, but there is no definite response to what they want to do number one overall, considering what they know so far.
And I think what is always so fascinating, too, with the number one overall pick is many teams that have that, obviously they're not a good team, right? And they have holes to fill. But some of them might have their quarterback or their young quarterback at that point. This team right now doesn't really have anything. They don't have their young quarterback, and they don't really have a lot of holes, unless you want to say it's Will Levis.
I was going to say Will Levis in his 20s.
I know Ramon is still going to make sure that his name is
That's how they'd
said.
sell it.
No, originally, you remember I told you guys, there is no way for Will Levis to be inside of that building if they go. That has been my contingency.
Well, and that's my point, because it's really interesting then to see what these three guys are thinking. What's more important? Do we really have to go and get our quarterback now, or Do we want a guy like Abdul Carter or a generational talent like Travis Hunter? I would think all of them had different mindsets coming into this process. How did it change to get to where they're going to have to get to? That's what's fascinating.
So what do you want them to say on Will Levis publicly?
Who, me? What I want them
What
to
should
say?
they be saying?
Nothing. I much rather them not say anything.
Anything.
Hey, if
Be
they're
complete-
asked questions about Will Levis, so are they supposed to just say no comment?
I wouldn't. In my opinion, I wouldn't have wanted them to say, "Well, he'll be in competition
Yeah.
to be a starter until the fall."
Yeah.
Everything else that they said was fine. Him being in competition to be a starter in the fall. What if he's dead man walking? Like I've seen guys in
Well,
positions.
he is dead
right,
man walking.
right, exactly. Like, why toy with the idea that you need 4 quarterbacks and one of them need to be Will Levis if that's the case? Like, I've seen guys be in that spot and they're dark. Like, they are in a dark space all training camp long. And you know at the end of it, he gone. And ain't nothing he can do to save his job. Again, they can keep him. Maybe Will Levis is a better teammate than I would be in that situation, being completely honest with y'all.
Yeah, I don't think they're really giving him a strong vote of confidence by comparing him to every other player on the roster. Because that's what they did. Chad Brinker told Jim Wyatt, the plan for Will Levis is he has a chance to compete for a starting job next year, and that's like every player that's on our roster. That's not exactly a vote of confidence that he's going to be the starting quarterback.
That's fair.
It's just like saying, he's just like Otis Reese, competing to be an inside linebacker. Or Cedric Gray, who Brian Callahan also said needs to step up this morning when asked about it.
Okay, but when that is the case, the way I view this one is, what if Will Levis does go have that camp this year that we thought he was going to have last year? He does become starter
have a decent
available.
camp.
I don't think that's
when
going to
we look
happen.
back at it again,
He was fine. He wasn't. I don't think he was terrible,
awful.
but I don't think he was good either.
I think it's more so those first two games.
the problems that he had showed up during the season.
It did.
Yeah.
The lack of connecting down the field.
He had that interception against the Seahawks on the 2-minute period that ended the whole period for the ones.
Towards the end of training camp.
And with joint practices in the middle of it. Yeah, in the middle of training camp.
So that's the only pushback I have. What if he does come in and have a phenomenal training camp?
I think we could what if ourselves to death with hypotheticals that aren't going to happen, and that's one of them.
But it's there though. You can't say that. Like, you cannot say that that's a hypothetical that cannot happen. It possibly could happen,
Will Levis
especially
having a phenomenal camp. I would be very surprised if Will Levis, with this cast of characters that he's throwing to, has a phenomenal
The
camp.
reason I say that, Sam Darnold. I never thought he'd bounce back in a career. Never thought he'd bounce back in a career.
I think those are different
all.
circumstances, though.
Not really, considering the trauma that both of them had early in
Sam
their
Darnold
careers.
had more success in Carolina than Will Levis has ever had for a string of games here.
That's also 5-6 years.
He's also
in
had
at the
more.
time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Will Levis is going into his third season.
Second
as
year in the
someone
same
who's
offense.
playing.
Second year in the same offense.
Well, if Cam Ward's brought in, though, this is going to be a different offense again. Just because it's the same offensive coordinator doesn't mean it's the same system and scheme.
And I would bring up J.J. McCarthy still. They're still
about
unsure about him as far as being a starter. If Cam ain't ready at the time and Will Levis does do good, like, that's not a bad thing for the team, to being completely honest with you.
Putting Will Levis out there with Cam sitting?
If they lie, but if it's fair and all things are above board as how they judge folks, like, that's a real scenario.
Yeah, putting Will Levis in front of Cam Ward to me is a waste of time.
I just think they'll make Will
It's a waste
Levis
of
look
time.
as good as he can, give him as many opportunities, and then trade him.
Yep.
That's what they'll set him up
about
for
right.
success, and then
And it's what they should do because his stock is never going to get lower than it is right now. If you put him out there and let him compete and earn value and play in preseason games, and hey, this Will Levis guy's getting better, well, then that 6 you might get for him could turn into a 5.
Mm-hmm.
So it's in their best interest to build him up. That way, when they trade him, he's a built-up Will Levis and not a torn-down Will Levis. And I believe they are going to trade him in training camp, just like they did with Malik Willis. He's a distraction to keep on the roster.
Very much so.
Coming up, Richard Hendricks of SEC Network talking SEC hoops after this.
It's Ramon Foster for Genesis Diamonds. Good people, man, we are lucky to have Genesis Diamonds here. It's such a cut above other places and far away the leader here also. The dominant player when it comes to engagement rings and fine jewelry. They have an amazing store if you haven't been there. Great people who really care, and it's just top-notch quality, y'all, man. But the best part is the value, the price, the fact that you get a bigger, better diamond for less. Nobody beats their diamond prices, and this is why Genesis is such a disruptor in the jewelry industry. They are the category killer. Remember, Genesis Diamonds was started by former diamond wholesaler and diamond cutters, man. They have connections that go back for decades, and every diamond is handpicked using the highest standards. All this means unbeatable value for you. They refuse to be undersold on GIA certified diamonds, and they have a price guarantee that's just not local, and it covers the entire nation. So get the deal you deserve on your diamond at Genesis Diamonds, and don't miss their expanded selection of luxury pre-owned Rolex watches too. All the hard-to-find models. Check them out. Genesis Diamond, extraordinary service, unmatched quality, unbeatable value, unrivaled selection, and no compromise. They're located in Green Hills and Cool Springs.
RKW brewed by Scooters Coffee on 104.5 The Zone continues. Download the Scooters Coffee mobile app today to order ahead and save $2 off your first mobile order. As we continue, Ramon Foster, Kayla Anderson, and Will Bowling talking hoops with Richard Hendricks of SEC Network, our good friend who joins us here on the phones. Richard, what's up, man? How are you?
Doing great, guys. Thank y'all for having me.
Yes, sir. Appreciate your time as always. Let's start Saturday, Richard, as we break down these SEC games in the Elite Eight and Sweet 16. What about Duke impressed you the most? Did they the way that they played and beat Alabama on Saturday night?
Well, the first thing that jumped off the screen is just their size. I mean, their ability to be able to guard Alabama, running them off the three-point line after the performance that the Tide had in the Sweet 16 game, knocking down 25 threes. They made sure to execute the scouting report. They didn't allow Mark Sears to get going, to get any type of rhythm. They changed so many shots at the rim. And when Alabama was able to make a surge late in the second half, they put their foot on the gas and finished it off. Very impressed with what the Blue Devils were able to do with making adjustments to Alabama's defensive scheme, which didn't seem to be effective against Duke early on, but they took advantage of Alabama and picked their spots very well in a well-played team game.
It's incredible, Richard, what Cooper Flagg has been able to do, but there are so many complementary pieces that are just unbelievably talented on this team as well. Looking at Cooper Flagg specifically, though, Richard, what about him is so special when we talk about a prospect that might be the best one-and-done prospect at a college basketball in a long time?
Yeah, definitely so. I mean, he has the ability, to me, with his great size, to be comfortable all around the court. And it's not only on the offensive end, it's on the defensive end. And the thing that I really appreciate about his game is that he gets his stuff within the flow of the offense. You'll see a lot of players who try to have really good statistical outputs. They're pressing constantly. They're shooting ill-advised shots. But he lets the game come to him. He can get out in transition. He can make defense into offense. He facilitates for others. He gets on the offensive glass, and he really recognizes for a young player where the mismatch is. If he gets to switch on the perimeter against a smaller guy, you can see him using his body, wheeling, spinning, getting closer to the cup, and getting a high percentage shot. It's so impressive for a guy who really should be in high school right now to be playing at this level.
That's crazy to think he could be in high school right now, man. Richard Hendricks with us this morning, SEC Network, Alabama alum also. Richard, that being said, man, speaking about the SEC real quick, the Friday, Saturday games, man, were really good. Like, teams really held their own coming out of the SEC, specifically when it comes to Ole Miss, man, and also Kentucky, too. Those programs I felt like got ahead of it this year, man. Have they really set a precedent for what you expect from them moving forward?
Oh, I've expected this from Chris Beard in year number 2. You know, I actually, in my vote, I had them picked to finish, I believe, 5 or 6 in the SEC. And they came out and were undefeated early on in the season, had a big win on the road in Tuscaloosa, and they've been able to show what they've been able to do. He's done a great job in the transfer portal. He had 10 veteran players on the team. Maybe they may have not been playing with each other, but they had experience, and I believe 10 of them were 1,000-point scorers. So he was able to show what they were able to do. And to be quite frankly, them and Arkansas should have been in the Elite Eight, but not able to hold on late in those ball games. But, I mean, Ole Miss is playing really good basketball. If he can continue to recruit some high-quality players, and then you can expect to see the Rebels continue to compete in the conference and also in tournament play.
Man, is there a more I can't think of one off top. Maybe you have a better answer than me. But a more dynamic player in this Final Four right now than Walter Clayton Jr. that can just score in droves the way he does. I mean, where were they at? They were down by 9-10 with under like 2 minutes left, Rich, this past weekend. And Walter Clayton Jr., who's the best scorer left in this Final Four?
He's the best guard left. You know, I think he's the best guard as far as a two-way guard is in the country all season long. I mean, like, he has a tough-minded personality. He was a former football player who was a 4-star recruit on the football side and elected to play basketball. But he can shoot from deep. He has supreme level athleticism. When he gets downhill, he can dunk it on you. I mean, and he has this knack for wanting the ball in the money time and hitting high degree of difficulty shots. He took over that game. Florida was dead. It was over with against Texas Tech. And he just put the team on his back, him alongside with Condon, and just came up with an unbelievable turnaround to win that game. He is definitely, to me, the most entertaining player to watch left in this tournament.
Richard Hendricks of SEC Network joining us this morning. Speaking of Florida, I just wanted to ask you in terms of that game, because really Texas Tech looked like the better team that night, and obviously Florida came back to win that one. But does anything worry you about Florida in that game in particular when it comes to moving to the championship game for them?
What worries me for Florida, just as I would say as their opponent Auburn is the fact that they have been through the grind all season long. They've had tough games in the NCAA tournament, and you're going to have another tough one to get to the championship game in this SEC showdown in the semifinal. And how much are you going to have left in the tank when you're taking on Duke or Houston, two tough-minded teams with great size? Houston not as tall as Duke is, but at the same time, they have a tough mentality. I mean, I've said it before. It's one thing to be tall, and it's another thing to think big. And that's the mentality that the Cougars have. So I look at Florida and Auburn. You know, they're playing good basketball. We know they're national championship good, but how much will you have in the tank after this gauntlet that you've gone through in the SEC season, the SEC tournament, and you've had close games in the NCAA all the way into the Final Four? I mean, they can get it done, but you're going to have to definitely dig deep because you got to earn it in the national championship game.
Just keeping it close to home here, Richard, in terms of Tennessee in yesterday's game with Houston, were you surprised at all by, the slow first half, or were you not surprised considering what Houston's defense is as well?
Well, not really. I mean, I do think that I would have thought that Tennessee would have had a little bit better offensive output early on in the game. And Houston has a mentality where they can lock you down just as Tennessee does. But Tennessee has struggled offensively all season long. I thought that the guy that I've liked all season long in his whole career since he's been at Tennessee has been Jordan Gainey. There's one guy on that team that I felt like can always get buckets, I'd say in a phone booth. He can score when the guy's on him. He can score in tough quarters. It's always him. And they were slow to get going. But listen, if I'm a Vols fan, you still have to be pleased with this team. I mean, it is disappointing. Here you are thinking that it's important that you can finally get to your first Final Four, but this group of guys, Zakai Ziegler, Meshack, the way that they have battled throughout their entire careers, and, to be finishing the season, you have a 30-win season. You have to be proud of that performance, particularly in a tough SEC year. If it's not this type of year, and I'll touch on, one time we had Joe Lenardi on the call, and I believe Ron Slay asked him in our call, what's more important to get to a national championship for the SEC? Is it the amount of teams you have in it, or is it seeding? And I'm seeing now that seeding is so important, because if Tennessee has a 1 seed and you don't run into one of these tougher teams on your way to the Final Four, just like last year against Purdue, this is a Final Four good team. So matchups are important. But you should be proud of this team and what they've been able to accomplish.
Richard Hendricks of SEC Network, our guest. So, Richard, where does Tennessee go from here without Zakai Ziegler coming back, with a new opportunity to reset the culture? It feels like they're going to have to go into the portal and find another basketball team. Some returners coming back, but as you look across the league, Richard, Tennessee is far from the only team that is going to have to basically go buy another basketball team in the portal this year, aren't they?
Yeah, well, they better try to go find another Zakai Ziegler.
Right.
Because that guy, to me, in a game where the game has changed, and you look at your point guards of guards who are always trying to score, this kid was the best true point guard that I saw in the collegiate game. And what I mean by that is, who is the quarterback on the court, who can control the tempo of the team, who can be the head of the snake defensively and shut down his man, be an awesome communicator and put people where they need to be, and have this mentality to set everyone up, but then I can hit big shots when we need them. That guy played a great brand of basketball, particularly at his size, to be able to do that for so long. But Tennessee is going to have to reload. It's going to have to start with the point guard position because that's going to be tough for them to replace. But if you know anything about Rick Barnes and the style in which they play, defense will always keep you in the game. And they will always have a rugged style that is very difficult to beat. And you're going to have to start with that. But they're going to have to work on that area, getting another point guard and getting a little bit more offensive production to pair with that stingy defense. And then I think they can still be back.
Richard Hendricks with us this morning. Rich, I've heard Duke's coach speak about how they crafted this team. Like, they got a bunch of tall, long, athletic guys, like Cooper Flagman, one of those guys, too, that can just score at will. Even they're big that plays in the post, he can't nipple. Like, you name them, they have answers. Like, at what point do you have to start planning what Duke did and trying to figure out who's the best team in America, where are the transfers going to, and how do we combat that? Because it seems like that's what Duke did. Or is it, no, hey, how much NIL we have? Go get the best. Because you see what I'm saying? Like, it's a fine line from just saying, hey, go pay for the best guys, and then it's a fine line saying we got to be able to combat that team over there.
Oh yeah, I mean it's a difficult challenge and a tough challenge for a lot of these coaches when you talk about roster construction. For me, I think you have to build your team for tournament play, and even though that might not correlate to winning regular season titles and being competitive in your league, unfortunately, in the college basketball game, people only remember what you do in March. It's just a crazy thing. I mean, you talk about Tennessee, you talk about Alabama. These are two teams that have almost 30 wins on the season, but you go out with your best players with poor shooting performances and a disappointing showing in the last game, and everyone feels like it's a disappointment. Or your flip side, you have some teams that have struggled all year long, but they get hot in the last moments of the season, and everybody's excited. It's a crazy thing that's the mentality. But you have to build your team with positional size and players who can defend in pick and roll situations and on isolations on the switch. If you start with that, you give yourself an advantage to be able to play when the shots are not going offensively. And then you want to make sure you get a bona fide scorer out of the portal. You get one guy that maybe might not be as good defensively, but he knows how to get a bucket. He wants the ball in the money time. And quite frankly, he's a little bit selfish. I mean, that's just the reality on teams. You got to have one guy who's playing for himself out there that when you get in the last moments of the game after we've run our team offense and not giving you the ball and you still try to search for your shots within the offense, now we can give it to you in an isolation situation and see if you can go to work and score us a bucket when we need one. But the roster construction is going to be pivotal for so many of these teams. And the thing that's going to be the challenging part is how much is each one of these players worth? Because that's the challenge that you got to figure out if you're going to go into your pocketbook and get it done. And that's what they pay these coaches the big bucks for.
Richard Hendricks of the SEC Network joining us this morning on RK Dub. SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey has made it clear for a few years now that, you know, he wants an SEC team to win a national championship. I mean, it would be big just for this conference, and you have a chance now. You wish that maybe each were on the other side of the bracket. They didn't have to face each other, Richard, but who has the best opportunity to go on and win now that you're saying it's got to be between Florida and Auburn?
I do think that it's Auburn. I think when you talk about the fact that Florida went into Auburn and won earlier this season, you have the connection of Bruce Pearl and Todd Golden, who was on his staff as the director of basketball operations when he first got into the coaching business. That has to play into the favor of how is Bruce Pearl going to make sure he's going to be the teacher beating the pupil. You have veteran players, Janai Broome, and his ability to be able to command a double team. He'll have to continue to play big. And Auburn has the ability with so many players on the perimeter to shoot well from the outside. So I'd have to give the nod to Auburn, but it's still, even if you get past that game, because Florida's been struggling a little bit and had to earn these wins in the NCAA tournament. Right. If you still have to get past that game, that's not the national championship game. And it's how quickly can you regroup to play against two tough-minded, talented, well-coached teams in the national championship. This has been a season where everybody's preached about how strong the SEC is, how historically good it is. And it doesn't really matter if you don't have a team to win it all at the end of the season. And this is going to be one where you're really going to have to earn it with all number one seeds in the Final Four, because this is going to be a high-level matchup all around the board.
He is Richard Hendricks of the SEC Network joining us this morning, talking hoops and previewing the Final Four. Excellent stuff as always, Richard. We appreciate you joining us all season long. Great stuff.
Appreciate you, Rich.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Richard.
Enjoyed it.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. There's Richard Hendricks with us and making some good points about, I think the winner of Duke Houston wins the Natty.
Winner.
Yeah.
That's the way I think this is trending.
Even if Florida can shoot,
Yep.
they get Houston.
If I was a betting man and I was wagering
I
on
think
this,
Duke goes
I would
far.
go with Duke.
So
Out of
with,
these four.
with his thought on that, do you think that the SEC, just because of their regular season play, at some point does wear itself down
I
by
think
the
so.
time they get to the tournament, the final?
Just my opinion. I think it's a
Couple
great
games.
point. Yep.
I don't like to do that though. I mean, I know what you mean. Like the
I'm not counting anyone out.
Right.
I'm saying if I was putting money on it, I would wager on whoever wins Duke Houston.
whoever wins Duke Houston.
Just my opinion. I've been wrong a lot this tournament, so you should probably go with Florida, Auburn, to be honest.
That's what I was thinking. Of the other two teams that's in it, though, Florida or Auburn, I feel like Florida's more equipped because they got the same size and physicality of what Houston has. Houston's ability to rim protect, I think, is where Florida can help break them down. And I will say, too, I'll give credit to Janai Broome and his abilities this past weekend to play against Michigan and do what he did against them. But
Against two big men.
I thought they were going to be his kryptonite, and he found other ways to get involved and everything else. So throughout this entire weekend, he's been good with that. So I don't want to discount him, but if I'm picking one over the other, I'm going to take Florida's team versus either one of those. Only, I guess, hiccup would be if having Houston have the same performance they did against the Vols. That was an elite
Duke
performance.
is the
That's a really good
tallest team in the country.
And they're so good on both
Duke's got
sides.
size. Yep.
Yes, they do have size. They
Duke
do.
is Ken Palm's number one offense. Houston is Ken Palm's number one defense, and they will play each other on
It's
Saturday.
going to be good.
That's what I was going to say. Like, Duke's ability to score in different variations, I think, is their biggest strong suit to me.
It's going to be fun.
Yeah, boy.
It's going to be one of the best Final Fours in a long time. A long time. It is. It's going to be awesome. I would imagine this will be one of the highest rated Final Fours ever, too, in terms of television ratings.
Should be.
The expectation is this will do a massive number.
When do we get those for the Elite Eight and like Sweet 16? How
Probably
those numbers-
tomorrow.
Okay. I'm interested to see.
Usually
those too.
tomorrow or Wednesday. Should be good, too. A lot of blue bloods.
Yep.
Still playing a lot of big
Yeah, it
programs. Tennessee's not maybe a basketball blue blood traditionally, but in terms of blue blood athletic programs, yeah. A lot of them in there, even ones that lost.
You ever gone through the list of, like, national champions, too, in basketball? Either one of you guys? It's the same.
Yep.
It's
is.
the same
It's
repetitive
very,
group.
very similar.
It's very fascinating. You'll have sprinkles of Villanova here and there. Houston's been in it. Arkansas jumped in.
North
one or two
Carolina,
times.
Duke, Kansas,
Kentucky. Yeah.
UCLA.
UCLA. Yeah. It's been that group that's run basketball for a while.
615-737-1045. A strange coaching hire was just made in college football, and we'll tell you next.
If you're often feeling tired, lacking motivation and drive, or gaining weight, or noticing a loss of muscle mass, these could all be signs of low testosterone. Listen to me. Don't wait. Go ahead and find out. At Low T Center, they make it easy to get your levels checked, and it's just a simple test, too. With their on-site lab, you'll get your results back right there. Low T Center is not a typical doctor's office. Their physicians specialize in treating low T with testosterone replacement therapy or TRT for each patient. The experts at Low T Center have over a decade of experience helping patients, and super important, the personal treatment plans are optimized for each patient. They're specifically for you. They're not just basic standard treatments. Also for you current patients, too, Low T Center offers you a $150 referral credit for each new patient that you bring in. And at Low T Center, you can also get your health evaluated with treatment with prescription GLP-1 weight loss medication. So get back to your best. Go to lowtcenter.com to book your appointment today. That's lowtcenter.com. Low T Center, reinventing men's healthcare.
RKW on 104.5 The Zone, brewed by Scooter's Coffee as we wrap up the show with some college football coaching news. According to a report from ESPN's Pete Thamel, Stanford is hiring Frank Reich as its head coach for the 2025 season on a solely one-year agreement.
1 year?
Mm-hmm.
That's the bizarre part.
I think it makes total sense. Total sense.
Right. Yeah, I saw that. Why does it make total sense to you as
For
far as
1
stability?
year, you'd rather get somebody to come in and stabilize it for one season without being forced to hire Derek Dooley.
Hey.
Because when Lane Kiffin left and Tennessee had to hire a coach way after everyone else did, they settled for Derek Dooley.
And if he does well,
look where it got him.
Maybe retain him at that point.
100%. If he does a good job, then you keep him. Stanford is a really interesting case study, though, because they're the only football program that has a GM running the program like an NFL team. Andrew Luck fired the old head coach.
Mm-hmm.
The president or the AD did not fire their old head coach. Andrew Luck did.
Andrew Luck did.
Andrew Luck is the general manager of Stanford football. So we'll see. I think that's one of the worst jobs in America. And I think the house settlement makes it even worse.
Didn't used to be. Used to be a really good program.
Well, the reason why I think it's the worst is one of the worst is because they care about being good at every sport. So similarly, how we talk about North Carolina is going to need a new infusion of dollars to be good at football. Stanford is spending money on track. They're spending money on swimming. They're spending money on beach volleyball. They're spending money on all these Olympic sports because Stanford is known as one of the best, if not the best, full holistic athletic departments in America. They're good at everything. They're just not really that good at football because they spread that dollars over all of it. They are going to be spending major dollars in NIL and house settlement stuff on everyone else that football is going to kind of get pushed to the side a little bit.
I mean, but what's different now is that they're spending a lot more money, too, on shipping them across the country. I mean, they're playing in the ACC. So
I don't think that's major, though.
Yeah, because they were a good program back in the day, and they were always distributing money to their Olympic programs. And that didn't take anything away from their football program when it was in the Pac-12.
Sure, but like flying the women's basketball team to play in New York isn't keeping their football team from being good.
I'm just saying, compared to other programs or other schools, like they need every dollar they can have, and I just don't think them being in the ACC is gonna benefit them long term just because of the distance.
Well, the TV deal's bigger in the ACC, so that helps.
I know, but it's just
if they need every dollar, then that they have more money in the ACC than the Pac-12.
A lot of things that don't help them when it comes to that. I don't understand a 1 year deal. I get Andrew Luck and the connection with the Indianapolis Colts and all that stuff. But a 1 year deal, I feel like then you're going to recruit guys and you're going to tell them to come in and then he might not be there. I think it's a little weird.
It just doesn't rush you to go pick a second-tier coach is essentially what I think. Frank Reich has the experience of getting guys motivated. Again, former NFL coach plays a part in as far as like getting guys to listen. That would be the first thing. If you went and got a coach right now that's a weaker coach, like you got to think, midway between spring practice, I was thinking spring practice is going on, semester's already started. They're also an academic institution too, so getting a high academic institution, so getting a coach in that understands that culture plus try to build off NIL. Frank Reich immediately in my mind says, we know that, like it changes the conversation as far as like him being the head honcho as far as Andrew Luck goes. So I can see that.
But a 1 year deal? Because that doesn't help them either. Because what if he does really well and then someone goes and plucks him and they're like, shoot, now we're back to kind of like
I don't think anybody's plucking.
More
Frank
times
Reich.
than not, I think he'd be loyal to what Andrew Luck allowed him to do at this point too. I see what
I'm
you're
just
saying.
speaking both sides.
Yeah.
I've been on both sides of 1 year deals where it's a weird beneficial thing for either that person or that program.
No doubt about it.
Just an interim.
But it's just a guy that's familiar with coaching that may be able to pull together a makeshift staff to get him through this. What is this next 9 months of the season?
It's what Northwestern did when they got rid of Pat Fitzgerald way after the season and were forced to. Kind of the same thing.
It's kind of sad though that they can't just like go get the coach they.
All of them are hired right now.
Everybody's gone. Gator Mike here to talk about the Gators on the phones. What's up, Gator Mike?
What an amazing weekend. First off, Will, it was great to see you at Fog Street.
Yeah, you too.
You know, Ramon's too big time to hang around and meet the fans.
Man, I'm out here trying to coach the youth of America, man. I was at football practice. See, I'm out here doing good in the neighborhood, man. See, there we go.
That's right. Hey, first off, I picture your house looking like Mike Pouncey's from down there in Miami. Remember I sent you that?
Yeah, mine's a little bit more humble than that,
field
though.
beside it.
Mine's a little bit more humble than that one, though. Yeah, I ain't got no football field. I'm on an acre, but I ain't got no football field, though. We do good. We do good in humble.
Mike, we're almost out of time. We got to get to it today. Sorry.
Hey, real quickly, what a great end to the game for Florida, that 18-4 run. Kayla's guy, Ruben Chinyelu, is playing great. You know, he's starting to go towards the rim and stuff. I think it's going to be a great matchup with Auburn, obviously, to see how that goes down. I think Duke's going to demolish Houston. I don't think that's going to be a close game at all. But
I don't know.
Congrats on the Vols, though. Seriously, great season. Great for Zakai Ziegler and stuff. Great player and even better person and all that stuff. But,
no doubt.
Yeah, just wanted to call and get my takes in. But good to see you again, Will, and we'll talk closer to the week previewing the Final Four.
Yes, we will.
Congrats.
Appreciate you as always, Mike. Good to hear from you.
That should be an interesting game.
I will not underestimate the Cougars of Houston again. They are so good. They are so good. Yeah, no, they were awesome. Jim Nance's team get the job done yesterday.
It was weird to see him in the stands. And
He was in the stands again
game.
yesterday, yeah, as a Houston fan. He did the same thing last year, too.
He's an alum, yeah.
I didn't realize that was his alum.
Yeah.
Houston alumnus.
Wow.
He's a Coug. Houston Coug.
Houston.
Yeah, there's different types of coups.
Yes, there are.
But Calvin Sampson was WSU basketball coach for quite a long time.
Who's that?
Houston's head coach.
I knew that. I remember.
I hear about Cougars everywhere I go.
Yeah.
It's a different kind of Cougars yesterday.
Well, just don't get caught up in
Coming
grocery
up,
stores.
the Lucas Panzica Show is on the other side. Bucket owners meetings. Lucas has you covered. And Ramon, we will see you on Wednesday.
Bucks at the owners meeting?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, you haven't seen all
You
these
not see his
pictures
weird
and
tweets about people vacationing
Oh,
in
yeah.
Florida?
No.
Yeah, just go down that rabbit hole. It's a fun one.
of him drinking mimosas in the morning.
Is he? I missed that.
Living his best life.
He is. Well, and if that's the case, and he's putting pictures on Twitter, you must remember at all times. Your Twitter fingers and your mic is always hot.